Welcome back to the 10 Tabs Open podcast. This is your host, Alex Howell, and we had on last Thursday, actually, Megan Day of Burnt Finger BBQ, who I'm going to read a couple of things in her bio just because she is a ridiculously impressive individual and one that I was actually really intimidated to have on because she is just so energetic and successful and loves what she does. But she and her husband, Jason, are the world champion pitmasters, and their team is Burnt Finger BBQ, and they have actually starting with a world famous bacon dish called the Bacon Explosion, they have grown their barbecue team from not just a championship winning team, but into a team that has produced product and has been on television. Megan actually went on to Food Network's Chopped Grillmasters Season 4 and won the title of Chopped Champion in February of 2019. So she did this when Jason has actually kind of been the pitmaster for their team. And she is just incredible. Her husband is incredible. And they have not only taken this and been on things like the Home Shopping Network and the Today Show and everything that you could possibly want to be on, but they have taken this and actually just created a brand around it. So a lot of our conversation today not only is about what it takes as, to create a brand like this, what it took to make their family a part of this process, but a lot of it is what does it take, in your family, in your life, in your schedule, to make a successful brand. What does it take out of you? What opportunities do you need to be a part of in order to give yourself the right opportunity to be there? And they have done just an astonishing job. And I was so happy that she was able to come onto the 10 Tabs Open podcast today. If you want to get a hold of her, her email is Megan at burnt, which is BURNT, fingerbbq.com. You can follow their brand at Burnt Finger BBQ on Twitter. Go to their website at www.burntfingerbbq.com. Or if you want to follow Megan specifically, you can find her on various social media at Burnt Finger Megan as well. Let's see. I think the only thing I have to do is kind of admit some issues that occurred during the podcast. Nothing big. The biggest thing was that, one, the reason that this is a few days after we originally recorded is because I decided to get sick over the weekend. So apologies to Megan for this late release, but that's the reason for it. The other thing was we did have a slight issue with the file corruption, but we were able to plug in what we had discussed and then added actually a lot more stuff on that we hadn't planned on in the beginning. So you actually get a little bit more information, even though it was because of a technical error. So I really hope you enjoy it. She is an amazing, fun person, and definitely follow her at Burnt Finger BBQ, at Burnt Finger Megan. And Megan, again, thank you so much for coming on. Hope you guys enjoy.
Something. Lots of somethings. Great. I got to eat the microphone.
Yeah, I got to be pretty close, unfortunately.
No, that's okay.
It's good and bad. It's good because when the further you get away, like say the furnace back there kicks on, the AC kicks on, then all of a sudden
the noise.
It's only here.
Yes.
So that's the positive.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, it is fascinating how important sound is, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, that was one of the biggest things when I started. I was listening to these guys, and Dax, and the other one that I really listen to a lot is Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this one particular type of mic. I was like, I'm going to get that. And I looked
have
at
to
the
get
price, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to get that right now.
Know your boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. But I went up to a Guitar Center, and I was just like, so here's what I need, and here's what I'm doing. And luckily, they had a good group there that was just like, here's what you do.
No, it is really, really important. I listen to quite a few podcasts, and if the sound is bad, I can't listen to it. I can listen to it if I have it in just headphones.
Right.
But if I'm in the car, there's too much other white noise. There's just I just have to go to a different podcast.
Yep, exactly.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's weird because sometimes they'll sound like they're all the way across the room talking into the mic, and it's like if all you have to do is grab a chair, sit it closer, just sit a little bit closer because that's what they're designed for.
Yeah, there's one that I listen to that I'm like, it's painful. Now, I was listening to her a long time ago, and so now I've listened to enough of them that are really good that when I go back to her, it's painful.
Yeah.
But she's got good information, so I kind of muster through it. And I know I've got to wear headphones when I listen to that one. So,
right.
Yeah, it's all good.
Just listen to it while you're taking a walk.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Megan Day with Burnt Finger Barbecue, you and your husband Jason Day. Jason started it.
Yes.
Right? And you have.
It's his fault.
It seems like his fault is almost a compliment at this point,
though. It is.
But so he was winning competitions, regional and national competitions, and then you were working at Children's Mercy Hospital before, right?
Correct.
And do you want to go through the story? You're the expert at the story. I know the background, but you're the one that's going to be able to tell it way better than I can.
Well, I'm sure I can make a quick Reader's Digest version because there's a lot more cool, exciting stuff we could talk about than that. But it is important because I was the drink getter and the box runner for Burnt Finger Barbecue, and I appreciate there's only one burnt finger. It's not multiple fingers that are injured.
Exactly,
so
just the one.
Just the one. No. And that's not even the real. I'll have to get into why we call ourselves Burnt Finger Barbecue, but. My husband and some friends decided they wanted to compete because that's what you do in Kansas City. Our blood is sauce.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to have a smoker and an opinion.
Yep.
And my husband is the kind of person who's just competitive enough that he's like, but I want to know, how good is it?
Right.
I know it's good. Free food for friends is delicious.
Right, exactly.
But would someone buy it? And would a judge say that it is absolutely meets the criteria? Right. So it was a big, steep learning curve. Back, a decade ago is when all of this kind of got kicked off. Gotcha. And so as I said, the real fun story behind it is he wanted to start competing, but we were engaged. And I said, please, can we just wait till the wedding is over? Like, I'm fine if you and your buddies want to go weekend warrior and do this barbecue thing. But I'd just like to do it after we got married. And so he agreed, and his buddy, they built a smoker.
Nice.
Talk about shoestring budget.
Uh-huh.
And another buddy was like, I'll help buy the meat. And kind of so the three of them got together, and one of them said, I got a trailer we can use. Yeah. So we had come back from our wedding, and my husband goes, so this weekend we're doing our first barbecue contest. And we'd literally flown in from our honeymoon, and it was that weekend.
Oh my God.
And so the story I tell for that is I walk up, it happened to be just down the street from our house in the Mission. We lived in the Roland Park Mission area. And it was the Battle of the Brisket. And I walk up to this tent and a rickety cardboard table, and there is my brand new KitchenAid mixer that I had just received as a wedding present. I didn't even open the box. He opened it. Sitting on this, hooked to a generator. Wobbling back and forth as he was using it to make cheesecake for the dessert category of this barbecue contest.
Fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening? They forgot knives. I mean, I was running to the store for them. I mean, it was chicken with our head cut off. But when it came down to awards time, they got a call in chicken, which basically what that means is they're a top 10. So their name was called in the top 10 for chicken. And then I want to say, I don't really remember, but it was top 8, probably top somewhere in that range. And I think the dessert, which he did a pumpkin cheesecake,
nice.
Which, by the way, our wedding anniversary is tomorrow.
Hey,
so
congratulations.
We're 11 years. So this was 11 years ago, almost to this weekend, that this little story started. And the cheesecake, I think, took like 5th.
Nice.
Yeah. So the hook was set deep.
Yeah.
The barbecue gods are very good at that.
Yeah.
They set you up. And then I don't think we got a chicken call for 5 years.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, we got a call in chicken, and then that was it. But what that did was pumped up those guys enough to say, we can do the American Royal.
Oh, jeez.
You're right. Second contest ever. Well, first and foremost, the American Royal, for anyone not from the Kansas City area, it is the World Series of barbecue.
Yeah.
And at the time, 500-600 competitors would come out for this thing from all over the world. And the chances of getting into the American Royal when we were just a couple of weeks out, because it was always that first weekend in October at that time, it's impossible to get a space. And for some reason, again, the barbecue gods knew what they were doing. A spot opened up. And we got it. And so we decided, okay, we're going to try this thing. We threw a huge party. People were doing cake stands. I mean, it was just, I mean, we were that team.
Yeah.
And
that's a good team.
It's a good team.
Yeah.
It was heck of a lot of fun. I love the pictures that we took.
Yeah.
I mean, I cherish those. We had just enough time to get a logo made, a huge banner. I mean, every T-shirts made, like barely enough time.
Yeah.
Like that 8th place chicken call created a monster.
Uh-huh.
And so quickly we turned out all this stuff and showed up there, and we took 5th in brisket.
Wow. At the American Royal.
38th overall. An insane placement for a novice neophyte
competition
ever. Yeah. From a couple guys that literally were just like, "Oh, build a smoker," and had really had no formal training. There weren't, now the culture of barbecue is there are so many classes and workshops and things that you can take to really help with that learning curve. At that time, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything on TV really.
Yep.
It was pretty. Just a very subcultured culture, even division little group of people that were running around with big egos thinking their barbecue was amazing. and really, and what we've discovered through learning curve is that barbecue judging is a lot different than barbecue eating. So what you get at a restaurant is going to be completely different than the barbecue you do for competition.
Interesting. Why is that?
Because it's a one bite judgment. And so everything you do into that piece of chicken or that piece of brisket or ribs, and the other is pork butt for Kansas City Barbecue Society sanctioned contests. Yeah. They get one bite, really, to make the decision. So you are pumping it full of as much flavor in that one bite as you possibly can.
Interesting.
Restaurants are pumping out volume.
Yeah.
They're not going to put all the butter and all the seasonings and marinades and injections, and they're just not going to do that. It's not cost effective.
Right.
They're looking to pump out a bigger volume, whereas we're looking to give that judge 6 pieces of the best piece of chicken or whatever it is.
Right.
And so it's just completely different, and you don't know that. That's why getting a 5th place brisket at the American Royal, not understanding the game, it really is a feat to do, because if you don't know the rules, you don't know the game, it's difficult to win.
Absolutely.
And so that changed.
And it seems like it's an interesting sport, too, because a lot of times you hear about beginner's luck. It's like, okay, well, you have beginner's luck. That is what it is.
It is.
And I'm sure that there's a part to play in that. But getting 5th in that competition in anything, let alone brisket, just in Kansas City, to me is just absolutely insane.
Well, I think the fact that overall 4 categories, the team placed 38th.
Yeah.
Like out of 500 and some teams.
Right.
I mean, so yes, we nailed that brisket, but then to also do well enough in all the other categories to put them, top 40 of all those teams. That's really where everything kind of kicked off. And again, I'm still serving drinks and running the boxes to the judges. I mean, that was my role at that time.
Well, and to talk about your role a bit, I mean, you went from that to, and working Children's Mercy Hospital, doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it was kind of a crazy life, because anybody who talks about, like, oh, I have a kid in T-ball, it's like, okay, we have barbecue competition, so we're traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
What was the transition where you went, I can make something out of this? What was the moment? I mean, because I think there's always a moment where you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to pull the trigger and make it happen. What led up to that decision?
So I am we were stretched very thin. I had a great career. My husband has a great career, and we had just had a baby, and it was starting to feel, I had that 3 months off with him, where I was able to kind of actually follow up on some phone calls, and we had decided at that there were some things that led up to us actually making it a business. That I can go into if we want to, but in essence, people wanted our products. Yeah. And so we started creating products. And there was a time during those 3 months where I was on maternity leave where I didn't have to be in high heels, and at the hospital I was basically did corporate relations and fundraising for basic cause marketing, things like that. Anything that wasn't just a check to give money to the Children's Hospital. Right. So it was a very fun, fast-paced career, but I didn't have to be in high heels every single day. I was taking care of this baby, but I could answer questions. Things were coming in to our business that just weren't getting answered or taken care of because they didn't make us money.
Right. Yeah.
So the things that made us money we needed to take care of, but just like the request for this or a quote for this weren't happening. Yeah. And so I was able to kind of do some of those things and see that. And that's when I kind of thought, wow, what if we actually put some energy into this, and instead of just running to the noise, we started making some noise. What would happen if that took off? Yeah. So then I went back to work, and we decided we were ready to have another child. And so 23 months later, I have my daughter. And again, I'm off for those 3 months. And I'm able to do even more because now I've watched some of that grow from that first little taste of what was happening. And I read a quote. I went back to work after those 3 months, and I read a quote that said, in order to change the outcome, you have to change the investment. Mm-hmm. And it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And I said, oh boy, we have to change our investment in this.
Right.
If we want to see an outcome. And that's when I called Jason and I said, get home, meet me for lunch. And he worked in Lenexa. Mm-hmm. I worked in downtown Kansas City, and we live out in the Lee Summit area. Right. So for him to travel clear across the city and me to travel up, he knew. He was like, uh-oh, what's going on? And I said, it's time for me to walk away from my corporate gig and take this head on.
I really hope you paused right when you said it's time for me to walk away.
Yeah,
like,
walk away. Wait, walk away
no.
from what? I promise you, I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he was pretty shocked because we had always talked about him leaving.
Yeah.
But the reality was he was the talent and I was the hustle.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from his hustle because he's a hustler.
Right.
But truly, I decided I'm going to be your barbecue Secretary of State. Yeah. Like, I'm going to help you get chief of staff, whatever you want to call me. Yeah. Like, the person that gets you the gigs, that gets you on to create that expert, because he had some great success. Mm-hmm. He wrote a cookbook that was named the best barbecue cookbook in the world. Yeah. He has had, been on the Today Show, and he'd had, multiple Fox and Friends and a lot of those things. But that was more running to the noise, those opportunities. But nobody was out there drumming it up.
Right.
And so I said, what if I did that? And let's just see. And at the same time, raise my beautiful little babies as best we can, maybe not having to put them in daycare and me be in high heels at work all day and then try to work on this over the weekend. Yeah. So that is when I wanted more family time. And I thought we really need to make some noise.
Yeah.
And so that was the moment that we decided it would be me to walk away. And we tease and say what we didn't expect was that he'd be the steak and I'd be the sizzle. Because that's what happened. Yeah. The second that we put out into the universe that I was in charge, I was running it, and we were going to go places. That's when it just opened up and opportunities started walking in. Yeah. But we were there to address them.
Right.
Which
Absolutely.
Was as critical as anything.
Yeah.
Because if I had to do it at night after I put the kids down, I had no energy.
Right. 100%.
I can't do it.
No. I mean, when Nikki works full time at her firm, and then she's there. Normally, I'm taking the kids to daycare.
Right.
And then by the time I get back, she's gone.
Yeah.
So she comes back, and, we talk about it all the time. It's like one of the most, unfortunate, but, kind of necessary things that goes on is that between, she gets home sometime around 6, and then we put them to bed at 8.
Yeah.
So we have to make those 2 hours count.
Right.
So if you can have any more time around you, and we really try to focus on weekends and all that kind of stuff. But if you're in the position that you were in, you can't do that. You can't go to work all day, really try to push time with your kids, until 8 o'clock. Yep. Also, have a marriage.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
exactly.
There's that thing.
Yeah, there's that weird thing.
Extremely important that we date each other.
Exactly.
And
yeah, you can't forget about that.
No.
And on the weekends, especially with young kids, they take up the weekend, and you want them to. But you have to remember, we're still married, and I still have this. So that's an amazing decision. What do you think when you decided that you were in charge and all these people start reaching out?
Yeah.
What do you think was the main basis for that? Because I know you and your personality. You're, like I said, you're a go-getter. I actually told Nikki this, and I was trying to decide if I was going to let you know.
Oh.
But when I started reaching out to people originally for the podcast, I was sending emails out to all kinds of different people, and then I saw your name pop up, and I was like, she is one of the best people I know, and she is intimidating as hell. in a very positive way.
Okay, that's fair.
No, in a very positive way, because it's just you are so driven and so successful, and you've pushed this to the point where the success just drips off of it. And it's amazing to see because, when we hear you go on, we'll talk about this in a bit, I'm sure, but when you go on Chopped, is it Grillmasters?
It was, Chopped Grillmasters.
And, spoiler alert, you win. I mean, it was just fun to watch, but, there's a part of you as a friend that you're just looking like, this is a different person than me. She is on television winning competitions and, just constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. So when you went into it full time, we're like, we can already see the trajectory of this. Yeah. What do you think when you went in that was the big pull for you? Because you said people started reaching out to you directly when they knew you were in charge. Yeah. I know your personality. Was it that you had a lot of people around you that knew it as well, or were there new people that just kind of said, hey, I've heard about you, let's talk?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I am very much everything I've ever done is the long game. I'm building relationships. I've always said, I probably should trademark this, but it's not who you know or what you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if they don't know you and what your skill set is or you could do, or the potential, or that you're genuine, authentic, if they don't know that about you, they're not going to reach out.
Right.
They're not going to take that time. It's just too busy. But if you can build those relationships and that trust, so that when the time comes up that they do want to reach out, that A, they know how to get a hold of you. Yeah. And 2, that you're going to follow through. Right. And it's hard to follow through, especially, again, if you're not actually physically making money at it. Right. Sometimes it's hard to really see what that purpose is. But I just have a different view, because I see the bigger picture way bigger than the big scary picture. Right. But I also know it's so critical for those relationships. But it's very interesting, just to kind of an anecdote to that. When I had a random conversation with a woman who is in charge of her dad's brand, basically. Yeah. He's the legend. That is his nickname in barbecue. Nice. And she knows that there's a time limit on that, that he's going to be relevant or alive. Let's just face it. Yeah. And so she decided she was going to start taking and building their restaurant group, the recipes, the cookbooks, the television appearances, and she was going to kind of make sure that the brand could live beyond the physical person. Right. And they have a great contest that Jason and I went up to, and I just, like I said, I had a random conversation with her, and I said, I'm kind of taking this on a little more full time, so if there's ever opportunities, let me know. Yeah. And because we had a relationship with them for years and years and years, she knew she could reach out. Right. So she's the one who was talking with the Chopped casting director about who would be good for the show. Right. And so she sends me a message, and she says, hey, the Chopped casting director wants to talk. Would you be interested? And I'm in the mindset of, for Jason. Right. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll talk with them, and then we can get an interview. And she's like, no, for you. And that moment hit me pretty hard. Yeah. Because I'm like, whoa, no. I'm behind the scenes. Right. This is for Jason. This is barbecue. He's the talent. And she said, this is good for your brand. And I said, whoa, PR, I get that. Yeah. That was like the switch for me. It was like, okay, if you set yourself on fire, look really cute doing it.
I like it.
You know how to cook. Yeah. You know how to do this. You may not be the head pitmaster, but that's only because this was Jason's team. Right. Not because I couldn't do it. Right. And so that was pretty pivotal, that just to give that anecdote, that she was like, has said, you keep your head down, you're doing what you're doing, you're making a difference, you're not just out there being a big blowhard. Right. Not just making noise and banging a drum. You are really doing it. And I'd love to see you get some limelight for that. And so that was a hard conversation to have, to look my husband in the eye and be like, yeah, so one of the biggest competitions in the country wants me to be on and not you. Right. But we had that eye-to-eye conversation, and I think it was really critical. And he was like, go for it. Yeah. Do it. Oh, my gosh. Do you know what a relief that was?
Huge.
Because he could have very easily been like, I think this should be me. Yeah. And I would have been like, you're right. Yep. Let's do this, because it's a team effort. So the fact that he was like, yep, go do it. And as you said, spoiler alert, I win my episode. That was a shock to me. Yeah. I went different beast mode that I didn't know I had. Yeah. And that was really, really fun. Editing is fascinating. That whole thing, the editing, we can talk about that. It's a whole, because I was made out to be like, I've never competed without my husband. My husband. It's editing, because they say they get in front of you and the producers say, have you ever competed without your husband? And so then you have to put the question in your answer. Yeah. I've never competed it without my husband. Right. Yeah. That's not something I would say. No. But it's the way they edit my story. Right. So people would say, was that really nerve-wracking? And I'm like, it was, but I was more nervous about the editing, because I'm not in control of that. No. I'm
No.
in control of me cooking, but I'm not in control of how they make me appear.
No, and they didn't, and it was interesting. You know, the episode was interesting to me, and I think we talked about this a bit before. But the final, it was made to
Yeah.
be kind of like this guy who was not a happy person
Yeah.
against sweet little
Yeah.
Megan Day.
Yeah.
It's like, I see what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Well, and I would be a fool to think that it's not as much about the production
Yeah.
as it is the actual skills.
Right. Oh, 100%.
But
yeah.
in Chopped in particular, for anybody not familiar with that format, is you're given a basket of ingredients and a very short amount of time to put a composed dish in front of judges.
Yeah.
Very skilled judges. And, my particular episode, the gentleman was an extremely accomplished restaurateur. He'd won a pretty prestigious barbecue competition. I mean, he had a lot of accolades behind him, and I was Jason's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. And first time taking that step out there. But you can't give the judges a reason to chop you.
Right.
And I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave them some impressive things.
Right.
So he was physically, you could see him turn red. He was so angry.
Oh.
He was so angry.
Yeah. Well, and I watched a couple of episodes. I watched yours obviously first,
Yeah.
and then I was like, this is a really interesting format.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I found the most interesting was up until the final meal, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But up until the final meal, you're judged on that particular thing that you put in front of them.
Right.
Once the dessert is there, it's like the last 33%, but
Yes.
you're judged overall.
Everything.
So it was interesting to me that they go through all of this and they don't say like you have the better dessert, like you can have the better dessert,
Right.
and the other person can win because it's
Yes.
about the whole competition.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. He was like, I mean, they displayed his attitude towards it pretty well, but it was a little intimidating.
Yeah. Well, the fun story behind that was he sent me a text message during because we don't see it. We see it when everybody else sees it. We don't see
Right.
a previous cut.
Yeah.
And so he's sending me text messages during the show, and he's like, please forgive me for what I'm about to say. And I'm like, what did you say? Because they quarantine you. You don't know.
Yeah.
They have little private interviews. I had no idea he was talking smack on me the whole time.
Right.
He's like, she's a high school player, and I'm an NFL,
I love that.
whatever.
It's like, well,
So
they beat
fine.
ya.
I mean, but you know what? Great. That's the story.
Yeah.
And I beat you. So thanks. But, it was very fascinating how they create. I mean, it was editing for him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he said those things.
Right.
But did they set him up? Did they bait him? He still set him. And
Right.
he knows. He had been on other shows.
Yeah.
He knows they're going to set you up
Oh,
if you take
100%.
it. So shame on him. But the next day, he was a Boston chef.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, the Boston Globes, the headline was chef husbands agrees to being crybaby on Chopped. That's in the Boston Globe. Like, that's the headline.
Wow.
And then it's a whole article about how this Kansas City pitmaster beat him, and it was
That's
pretty
fantastic.
fun. So that was pretty great.
Good
So,
PR.
and every time he opens a new restaurant, they'll say, Andy Husband's best known for being a crybaby on Chopped.
my
I mean, I'm like, they
God.
always bring it back up, and I'm like, karma.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, I can kind of smell some meat. I
Yeah.
brought to you, and I need to go check on it because one
Yeah.
of the things, my biggest pet peeves is don't overcook your meat.
Right.
There's a thing, so I'm going to go check on it.
Sounds
So
good.
you, what are we going to talk about? And I'll just kind of skate over here and go like check on it.
Well, I mean, we can talk about pretty much anything at this point. I think one of the things that I think is the most interesting in your particular situation is, and we touched on it just a bit, is there are certain industries where it's really difficult to really sell yourself. It's difficult to, kind of sit back and say, okay, how are we going to do this? Are we going to be open to it? And I know that you said that you go after things and you try after things, but I think you also, at some point, you do have to admit to yourself, what's the drive, like what can be even a positive driver for this that I may not be thinking about?
Sure.
And one of the things that was, it strikes me pretty well when I watch that show and other shows is outside of barbecue in the world of food,
Right.
it's men and women.
Yeah.
Barbecue,
It's men.
all men.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
so,
changing. That's
yeah.
changing.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think there was another woman on that episode of, yeah.
There was.
There was. So, I mean, there are definitely people that are coming in, but if you're on the ground floor of anything, you're in a positive position. And I don't want to say, have you taken advantage of that? Have you taken advantage of everything that you possibly can?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I would say I've said no more than I've said yes
Right.
to some opportunities. It was a pretty hot moment right after that episode aired. I did not go on to win the entire title. I did get to go to the finale, and I got beat by 2 trained chefs, and that's a whole nother thing that I'm frustrated that they were even had the opportunity to compete in it, because it was about pitmasters and grillmasters outdoor cooking.
Right.
And one of the guys that beat me with a tartare. It's not even cooked. And I'm like, this is Grillmasters, whatever. But again, there's as much of a storyline, and I gave them a reason to chop me, and they did. So there's also that part of it. You have to be humble enough to say, dang, it is intense.
Yeah.
It is hard. To pull out in 30 minutes or 20 minutes that you have. So I feel very blessed that I got to go as far as I did. But taking advantage of it, there's also people who want to take advantage of you.
Right.
And so that bullshit meter, that red flag, that you got to stop and say, one of the big things that I was approached to of my own show, and in essence it being push Jason out of the way.
Right.
This is my show now. And that was wrong. That was just not the right opportunity for us. And so being able to say no to that and know that it wasn't right, I think in the long run will be a much more positive, and we'll be married.
Yeah, exactly.
And
was it a national or was it a regional?
Oh no, it would have been national.
National, gotcha.
It would have been a big show. But I also know that, we talked, I'll come back to, Alex, I think you've said before that you had a different style of podcast before, that you just didn't, your heart wasn't in it.
Right. Yeah.
And it probably showed.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And so I knew that if we tried to push this show, it was going to feel wrong and it was going to come across wrong. And that was probably going to be my one shot and I'd be done.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd rather hang tight for the right opportunity in the right moment, find other ways to shine, and then see where it goes. And
Absolutely.
So I don't know that I've completely taken full advantage, but I think for where we are, I like to call them seasons. At this season of our life, we're exactly where we should be.
Right.
Exactly where we should be.
That's perfect. Well, it's always amazing to me when I'm a huge documentary biography fan. And it's always amazing to me, whether somebody gets kicked from a show, whether a show fails, or whether they turn down several shows. There's always the moment. And for people who are driven, it tends to happen. I'm not going to say it always does, because I'm sure there are people that are driven that haven't gotten there. Yeah. But if you have the right personality and you're still pushing and you're still working for those opportunities and awaiting them, there's always something that's going to land.
Yes.
And as soon as it does and it's the right position, I mean, the way you guys compete, the way, the fact that he has, I saw the thing that I did not know about was you guys were part of a 2016 Emmy-nominated documentary.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you're part of all of those things and you continue to push, there's no way opportunities aren't going to present themselves.
Yeah, it is. And it's the other thing, too, is becoming that expert. And how else can we be used as that expert?
Right.
And it may not be that we have our own show. That may not be exactly what makes sense for us. It may be that we're parts of other things, or just we're creating content, constantly being approached by different companies to execute brand engagement and build audience for that. But again, if I don't love the product or really want to, I just say no.
Right.
And people are surprised. And I'm like, nope, not. Yeah. I don't want to dilute. We've worked really hard, 10-year overnight success. Yeah. For us to be at this position, for us to skin it. I just would much rather shear the sheep, shear it, rather than go ahead and skin it and go. Although we're leaving a lot of money on the table, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and who knows what the immediate money might not be as good as the long-term money when you think about that.
I know it's not.
Exactly.
I'll keep eating my ramen noodles. No.
I don't think in your house people are eating ramen noodles unless you just want to.
Yeah. Actually, I have I kind of doctor them up. So.
Oh, nice. I like it. Yeah. Not the college version of ramen noodles.
Easy. Yeah, it's definitely not the college version. But yeah.
Well, so when you talk about the product line, walk me through the product line. I do want to hear about that, because it seems like every once in a while I'll see a new product, or something new. Yeah. But back to the beginning, it was the bacon explosion.
That's it. Bingo.
And did you say it was the #1 most downloaded recipe?
Yeah. At the time. At the time, that was pre-Pinterest and all the but for just a viral post on a random blog. Yeah. It was, I believe, and I'm not as versed in all of these technical accolades, but it was like the #1 most Googled term for a couple of days in a row, which is pretty. That's amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And then we've been told we have an FBI file.
Hey.
because Jason's name was associated with explosion.
Oh, God.
Like millions of times in a short window of time.
Show up to your house.
Yes, and so we've been told we have a file. But so bacon explosion, bacon wrap, bacon stuff, smoked sausage.
Yeah.
That was the brainchild of Jason, my husband, who was approached. This was 2008. Twitter was just kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And as a friend said, we said, what the heck is Twitter? He goes, it's Facebook without the bullshit. We said, okay, we can do Twitter.
Yeah.
We'll get on Twitter. Well, somebody from bacontoday.com approached Jason and said, how would you barbecue bacon? Like, let's collaborate here. And so Jason went to the grocery store, and it was buy one, get one free bacon. Now, think about that in itself. There's no buying, getting one free bacon these days anymore.
No.
It is a super expensive hot commodity.
Yeah.
But back then, it was just whatever.
Yeah.
And get you in the store and buy some extra. So he had 2 pounds of bacon, so he bought 2 pounds of sausage. And he said, I had this desire to put it all into one recipe and had to figure it out. And he wrapped what we call a fatty, which is basically a chubba sausage. He wrapped it in bacon and was like, I still have a pound and a half of bacon left. So he fried up a pound of it and decided to like envelop, like put it inside and then roll it together. And he still had some strips of bacon left, like 5 or 6 strips. So he said, okay, if I'm going to go one direction with it, why couldn't I go the other direction with the bacon? So he made a lattice weave, a blanket of bacon that he wrapped around it and then put it out on the smoker. And we took pictures the whole time. We were laughing our butts off. We had a Christmas party that night. And so we said, well, that's just what we'll take to the Christmas party. And we threw it down, and nobody wanted to eat it. They're like, that is disgusting. What is that thing? And it was really before the whole, like, gross food movement, like the big over-the-top food movement.
Yeah.
Dare I say, we might have kicked it off. But we didn't have a name for it. We were laughing. We were trying to come up, Terminator names and all these things. What could we call it? We couldn't call it a Baconator because Wendy's had that. But so we went to the second party because, we're that popular. We like 2 parties in one night. We took it, again, one person, Doug, our buddy Doug, was the only one who ate it that night. And then Jason and I both had like the first bite, But we took the rest of it, and Jason walked into that party. He was kind of ticked off no one wanted to try his barbecue, right? Ego, little bit. And he threw it down on the table, and out of nowhere just goes, boom, it's a bacon explosion. And that party was after 9 o'clock, so they had maybe had a couple cocktails. They dove on that thing, devoured it. We saw people scurrying away with pieces like to wrap in tinfoil to hide. It was, and we were like, okay, we're on to something. Yeah. This is really interesting. And then we had people that night say, will you make one of those for my family for our Christmas party? So Jason was like, I really think we're on to something. I'm not going to give this recipe to that Bacon Today website. We're just going to do it ourselves, and we'll post it on our blog. Yeah. Our blog had a whole, I think, 2 articles on it and had nothing for sale. But it was how we thought we would make money during the off season to pay for this new expensive hobby that they had just won at the American Royal, and we're going to have to pay for the next season.
So this is right after the American Royal.
Like physically, October was when we did the American Royal. December is when this bacon explosion was created.
I didn't realize it was that quick.
No, it was that quick. So like I say, I got married in September. We gave birth to the bacon explosion a couple months later. Man. So 2008. Christmas. We knew it was a big deal. He put it up on the website, and our buddy who had SEO brains was like, there's a lot of people looking at this thing, like out of nowhere. Yeah. Like we have hundreds of thousands of people looking at this thing. And we were at a family gathering, and Jason's aunt comes running in, knowing how much he loves barbecue. And she's like, I got to show you this thing. I got to show you this thing. Some people were showing it to me at work. Look at this thing. And she pulls up the recipe for the bacon explosion. And Jason's like, Aunt Carmen, that's my recipe. And we went, uh-oh, this is big. Like even Aunt Carmen says they're sharing it at her office. Wow. And so we then proceeded to watch those numbers just explode. Yeah. And that's when the New York Times called.
That's always a good lead-in. Yeah. And that's when the New York Times called.
Yeah. And I had just enough, I was just dangerous enough to have enough public relations in my background to know that was a big deal. Yeah. Sure. So on that note, I got to check on our sausage real quick.
Sounds good.
And the good news is this is really this is a new bacon sausage that we're coming up with.
Nice.
That is going to be a little more digestible than the big giant bacon explosion. So I got to go check it. I can smell it, which means it's probably done.
Okay.
So
awesome.
I'll bring it over here and we can slice it up and get a little taste of it.
Sounds like a plan to me.
And we'll I don't know.
I'm just going to pause it real quick. Okay. Take a break.
Okay.
As I slam the headphones. got to tell you that sitting over here for the last 40 minutes, it was just torture.
Oh,
like,
you could smell it. That's the whole point. And you would talk about people who what gets them excited is seeing people enjoy our products. And so kind of going back to your question about products and what we do, I mean, that the Bacon Explosion was it. I mean, that was the reason that we kicked off, because we had people coming to us saying, I live in a high-rise apartment.
Yeah.
I don't have a smoker.
Right.
I want to eat this thing. So we had to quickly figure out how to become a meat purveyor.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
No.
It has USDA. You've got chain of custody. You've got crossing state lines. I mean, it's a big deal. And so we were able to pull that off by that May. Our first commercial Bacon Explosion hit the market. And what's funny is during the photo shoot, this is literally my little Canon camera photo shoot, Jason took a logo, our logo that we had freshly created quickly for the American Royal, basically for the team, and put it on a ketchup bottle and on I think it was celery salt bottle, like just a generic, wrapped him so people thought we had sauce and seasoning. Because we put him in the background, like we were a big deal, like we were a company.
That's fantastic.
And it was totally just for display, food styling, if you will. Right. And so then it was like, oh, you have to have a sauce and a seasoning. So we had to figure that out real quick. And so that's how the sauce and seasoning launched. I mean, just as quickly as that did. And
how do you go about that? Because to me, it's always been a really confusing thing, because there's the, every barbecue competition. I think it's something I see on every single competition with a barbecue. It doesn't matter if it's Texas, North Carolina, here, wherever. It's always like, well, you can't. I'm not going to tell you the recipe.
Yeah.
It's like, but then you give them seasoning and sauce, and it's like, well, there's the recipe, but we do things different over here. Yeah. Like, that's always kind of been the interesting thing to me. Like, if you're selling it, is that the same thing you use? Well, and it's layers. It's layers of flavor. And then there's commodity, consumables. Yeah. So like our sauce is definitely more of a French fry, hot dogs, chicken nuggets. It is much more of a commodity sauce. But it really does add a great layer of flavor to some of the things that we do in competition. So it's just one of the layers. Nice. But there's probably 7 or 8 other layers. And so that's why they say they don't give you their recipe necessarily. Yep. Because they're probably injecting it with something. They're probably putting something with less sugar on early, and then putting the final sugary product on so it doesn't burn. Gotcha. So it's still probably and then some people just are making what sells. Right. And that's fine. Yeah. That's a business. Well, yeah. I mean, if you transition from I'm only doing this as a hobby to I'm doing this for a business, then decisions have to be made. Decisions have to be made. Yeah. And absolutely. Pricing and ingredients. Do you use molasses or do you use corn syrup? I mean, that's the reality. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I know so little about food prep in general. Like, I have the meals that we make here. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Like, I can grill a steak on a charcoal grill, and I really like doing that. That's amazing. Yeah, that's all I do. That's all I can do. Like, with like we were just talking about it before we came back on. It's like with chicken, with pork. I'm probably the worst person. Like, we don't really have a lot of pork. Like, probably sausage is the only thing that we really have. Yeah. I'm 100% sure I overcook it. Yeah, you do. Yeah, and that's okay. Oh, yeah. And that's okay. But that's why when you go and have it, and you're like, whoa, this is so good. Why can't I do that? The problem is people are sometimes afraid to try those things even out because they know they don't like them. Right. Well, you don't like how you do them. Yeah. I mean, there's certain things, like I didn't know I liked duck until I had it done and prepared the correct way. And it's like, oh, I do like duck. I've really never had good duck, or whatever. So you have to be willing. So do you want to give it a try? Yeah. Okay. So kind of, along those lines, the one thing about the Bacon Explosion, dig in, please do. The one thing with the Bacon Explosion is it's a commitment. I mean, it's 2.5-3 pounds of meat, right? So getting something in a consumer's hand or into a restaurant's hand that is quick, that is a link, that is maybe a little more user-friendly. Oh, my God. Yay! I see a smile. It was very important to us, but it's taken a long time to get to this point, to where we've got this. And now I physically went to the butcher this morning who's making this for us and picked these up because this is our final test batch. Wow. Before it starts to hit the market. So I'm glad it's hitting the market. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. So it's the first product that we have, total conception was not geared toward direct to consumer, but actually restaurant service. Yeah. It's the first product that we sat down and we said, we're going to create this because we want it to be something that
any and every restaurant, regardless of their genre, could have a good barbecue sausage on their menu.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a pub or if it's a local dive bar.
Yeah.
We wanted them, if they wanted a high quality, nice product, that they could get their hands on one. And so that's what this is.
That's fantastic.
We haven't named it yet. We haven't even named it yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I really like that is, one, obviously it's cooked very well.
Thank you.
But two, that it's not overpowering. Like, I feel like a lot of times when you go to pick something up, it's all based on, the non-meat flavor. Like, I feel like everything that goes into that just enhances the actual meat, rather than, like, one of my favorite things in the world is Italian sausage, like really hot, spicy Italian sausage. You can't really, it's just tasting pepper at that time. I mean, you can like it, you can like the feel of it, but you're not really tasting the meat. That you actually do. It's like, when you have a steak, you like the steak.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you go to a restaurant, I'm sure you also like the butter that's in the steak.
Oh, yeah. So much butter. Well, and that was the thing, too, just even down to the consistency and coarseness of the pork and the bacon. So the actual cooked bacon that goes inside blended in with this sausage. There's an expectation when you call something bacon from people. And to then put it into a sausage, it's not an easy, obvious thing. And so this has taken us several rounds to finally, where I think, get to the point that the seasonings inside don't overpower it. It's already salty, it just by nature.
Oh, yeah.
So what could we use to enhance the meat flavors and not add more salt to it? So we had to develop a whole new rub seasoning.
Oh my God.
In order to meet, because we tried to do it just with what we had.
Right.
And it just proved to be too spicy for the general public and too salty. And just didn't really do anything for it. It was great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I'd eat the crap out of it.
Right.
But truly, we were like, okay, we're going to have to go out this old school, back it down, not come to market quite as fast, but get it right.
Right.
And I think we've done it. I think we nailed it.
Oh,
I mean, I'm really pleased.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So that was my first bite of this new batch too, and I'm okay with it. It's not because the first batch it was honestly, it was too spicy. And I like spicy, but I know that the general average consumer doesn't.
Right. Yep.
So can we make a product then that now we see? The bigger vision is now we'll do a jalapeno version. Right. Now we'll do a cheese version. Yeah. Now we'll do, but we have to have that base
original.
Yeah. That we can then build upon for the person that really wants spicy or cheesy.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Well, I do feel like you can have that tastes like something that you can have morning, noon, night.
Yes.
Like it definitely just tastes like something you could have. Like that could be breakfast sausage.
Yes.
That could be your lunch. That could be dinner.
Yes, and you could throw maple syrup on it.
Yep.
It would be delicious. You could grill them up for the tailgate and put sauce on them.
Yeah.
I mean, it could take a mustard sauce. It could take a Kansas City traditional sauce. I mean, I think that was kind of the goal, was to build something that we felt like people could have enough creativity that we just didn't tell them what to do with it, that they could really, serve it as medallions, serve it on a bun.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. We're working with a particular purveyor that we are. However the restaurant wants it, they can make it. Coils, rope. They can do it in big chubs. They can do it as quarter pound, 1 pound, whatever the restaurant would want to do to then use it as a product on their end. But it will be a burnt finger barbecue product.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of exciting.
That's really exciting.
It's a whole new wave for us from the business side to not just be direct to consumer driven.
Yeah. So explain to me,
yes.
When you were just talking about, so the restaurant can get it the way that they want to. So your sausage is your recipe. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But if they want it in just a pack form, like a 1 pound pack form or 5 pound pack form, they can get that. They can get links like this.
Yes.
I mean, so they basically can go tell this place exactly what they want, and then it just shoots over to them that way.
Yes.
That's a neat model.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, because I've never been in the restaurant industry. I've never worked at a restaurant. I've never been I've never taken a chef class. There's not been anything about the world of food that I know about. So to me, this is ridiculously interesting. Like when you were, when you're talking about the process of, making something yourself, you and Jason can't make a million bacon explosions and send them out for the demand. So how do we make sure that this process can go bigger?
Yes.
And to me, that's just it's mind-blowing to me how many things you don't know about when you find an industry where you know zero.
Well, and part of what we talked about, the moment that kind of drove me to say someone's got to get grab this bull by the horns and let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's ultimately what happened. My very first meeting, and this goes back to my philosophy of long game, I set out to meet every person that we were doing business with, meaning vendors.
Nice.
Because we are in the food industry, we don't have our own facilities.
Yeah.
Because it's just insanely expensive. Even down to the dry ice guy shipping it out. Like, I wanted to know who they were, what they do, who else did they do business with, and really my ultimate question was, how can we get more business?
Yeah.
What can we do to work with you to be a preferred vendor or a preferred customer? And so I went to the place that was making our bacon explosions, and I didn't like the way they made me feel.
Oh.
I was very disappointed. We wanted to get a tour of the facility. They knew we were coming, and then they said, "No, we're not going to show you." And I'm like, "No, I need to see where you're making my product.
Yeah.
I need to know if there's cockroaches. Like, let me just be honest.
Yeah,
like
100%.
I've got to know."
Yeah. I mean, it's around food. They're around food all day
And
long.
I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but you left me no room to not make up my own story. So they lost our business.
Yeah.
And, Jason was kind of like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "We got to find somebody else to do this." He's like, "Do you know how hard that's going to be?" And I'm like, "Yep, and it's a necessary step."
Yeah.
And we did. And we did.
Well, again,
and
the long game.
Yeah, it's the long game. And we've changed even since that time. We kind of found an intermediate one that honestly didn't want to do the volumes that we were starting to produce. And so it was a very open conversation. And he said, "I think you need to find somebody else to do this."
Well,
because
good on them.
Oh,
Yeah.
huge. When I went in and said, "I need you to sign this non-disclosure about a possible place that we could be selling this," he basically said, "Ooh, yeah, no, I don't want to make that many."
Yeah.
And we said, "Okay, no problem." And we appreciated that because he could have easily said yes, and then we would have gotten a PO from somebody and never been able to fulfill it.
Yeah.
So it was painful,
Yeah.
but it's also necessary to pivot that at that point. And so now we do like who's making them for us. They can make a lot of them if we need them. They can do a few if we need them. And that's we're paying a little bit more for it, but we have that flexibility now where we just didn't have it before. And then again, just not knowing what their goals were as a business. Again, you don't know the game, you can't play it.
Right.
And so I sat down with the people who were making our spices, and I said, "I know that you talk to big companies about bringing in products to their shelves, like bigger, box stores and different things like that. How do you choose the spices you pick to be a part of that program?" And she couldn't answer the question. She's like, "It's just kind of a handshake. We just kind of people that have momentum, and we put them in the program." And I'm like, "What do I need to do to get in that program?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Build your profile."
Okay.
And so I did. I got on Chopped and I won. And it was like, whatever. No. But no, really, I mean, again, I knew I needed to build my profile. And there's multiple things. I'm very fortunate. I've had the opportunity to be on the Today Show several times. I'm kind of an on-call Grillmaster for them.
It's crazy.
It's fun.
To me.
It's fun.
What is live TV like?
Yeah.
Is it just nuts?
It's interesting. It's fast.
Yeah.
It is
I
a
bet.
whirlwind. I mean, it's all their handlers and everybody. And then they come out and they are the talent and they do the thing and then they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you're there cleaning up.
Yeah.
The Today Show in particular, I think this is a really fascinating point. So I can't actually physically make any food that I present when I'm on the Today Show.
Okay.
Because
That's
it's all union.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even clean a knife.
That's right. Yep.
And so they tell me, you can touch this, you can touch that, and you can do this. Everything is staged. Everything is ready to go. It is their cook staff, everything.
Oh, my God.
And so...
And these are the things you never see, you never hear about. The only reason I even know how, I don't want to say crazy because that's not the right word, but how regulated it is because I've had friends of mine and mentors of mine who have performed on stage in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And same thing. It's like, there's a famous story, I think it was Alec Baldwin, slammed a screen door and it broke it off the hinge during the show. Well, during the show, they left it, but he went up afterwards and was just like, it's just a screw that's loose, and they got on it.
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
can't.
It's somebody that famous, they still got on.
Yeah,
so.
you cannot touch anything because that is all regulated.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
When you're there, I don't know how long your segments end up being, but, I mean, if it's a 5-minute segment, that's got to be a little crazy. I'm going to get on a plane, go to New York, probably be there for quite some time, but the money is 5 minutes, and then I'm out.
Out. Done.
And then I'm going home.
Yeah, and it is literally like, here's your coffee mug, thanks.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
But it's fun. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, and it still
It's
gains
like,
you
hey, Al.
exposure.
Hey, Al Rooker.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Well, how
Hey,
many
Carson
people
Daly.
are how many people are googling you too?
Yeah.
Like as soon as that's done, it's like, oh, that looked really good, Megan Day.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and you kind of talk about the are you taking advantage of being a female in this lead? That is, I know that's part of the appeal is that I don't look like every other barbecue pitmaster,
Right.
and so if they're looking for that, I'm an obvious choice.
Right.
And it's really fun. So there's a new show. And I will tell you, I was in the running for the show, and I'm a little bitter I didn't get chosen, but that's okay. No, it's
fine. It's all fine.
It's fine. I firmly believe there's a reason, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. No. But I'm really proud because they did end up having 4 women on the show with, I think, 6 other pitmasters, guys. So it was very well represented as far as the female goes. And they are the final 4 still remaining in the show. And tonight, which this is how we're taping this podcast, I'll find out which of the 2 women remaining, which one is the winner of the barbecue. I forget what it's called, but it's basically Michael Simon and Bobby Flay.
Oh, nice.
And they're teamed up with them, and then the winner is going to get their own Food Network digital series.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so, but it's 2 women in the end, and you would have never have believed it. You looked at that panel of those 10 pitmasters that they started with, and it never in a million, or maybe it was 10. Yeah, I was thinking 5 and 5 on each team. You would never have picked.
Yeah.
These 2 women in particular, specifically these 2 women. One of the other women was chef. She's chef trained, so she had some great culinary chops, and she got beat because her potato salad was a little too salty.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
That everything else, her meat was cooked perfectly, but overall, they had a reason to cut her. And so, anyway, it's really fun to see that not only is a high-profile show like that included women, but these women kicked some serious tail.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, okay, if I couldn't be on there and I couldn't try to win, I'm so glad, right?
Yeah.
Like, let it be a female lead because we are there and we're doing things. We just didn't have a lot of cameras on us.
Right.
And that was one of the things we've said all along is it's like we're there.
Well, and this is happening so much right now, and it's a wonderful time to watch it because there are so many shows, so many industries that women are just, able to finally get into. And it's like, they're just as talented. No kidding, really.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's, I don't want to say, anything negative, but it's one of those like, it's barbecue, it's this field, it's this field. Like these are all things that we know. We know this can happen. And I have I have commented sometimes, it's like I do feel like there are times where things go a little too far.
Oh,
it's
sure.
just like, whoa. But
yes,
you also have to realize that like this is new.
Yeah.
This isn't something that's happened throughout time. This is like if you're going to complain, they have a lot more room.
Yeah. Well, and a lot more room, but 2, give us the chance and let us earn it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're discovering is that women are doing really well in these competitions, but nobody was asking them.
Right.
They just weren't. So the fact that this woman said to this, this producer, casting director, talk to Megan and gave me that chance is what needed to happen.
And then you won.
And and then I won.
Exactly.
But I had to earn it.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I had to earn it. So I'm super excited to see where this is going and that maybe we'll have more chances just even to just get to try to earn that chance.
Well, I feel like as much progress as you all have made in 10 years, there is still, I mean, you could probably see the trajectory that you can go into. I mean, it's not just products. It's, you were talking about they get a digital series.
Yeah.
That's everything now. I mean, it's amazing to me.
Content lives forever.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, I mean, if you're able to start the brand now, even before, now is you've already done it. And speaking of brand, how do you separate Burnt Finger BBQ from Jason Day from Megan Day? Because I feel like you're a brand unto yourself, and Burnt Finger BBQ is a brand unto itself, and I feel like in some ways Jason is a brand unto itself.
Yeah, that's the humble, hard Midwest part, right?
Yeah.
Like, no. It doesn't need to be me. And then like, no, it does.
It does.
Okay, well, all right. We're figuring that out.
Yeah.
I think the market will dictate it. It will tell us.
Yeah.
One of the big moments that I was proud of last year as I put together my goals and things I wanted to see for the business, one of those for the last 2 years had been having a chance to sell on a home shopping channel.
Right.
Whether it was QVC or HSN or Evine or whatever that genre was, because I felt like our story translates well to an audience that is buying on via the television.
Right.
And had that opportunity, they came to us. You know,
wow.
who gets that? But we had been talking with QVC at one point about the bacon explosion, and it just didn't fit. The model just wasn't fitting. And then QVC bought HSN, which is the Home Shopping Network.
Yeah. And
they came to us and they said, what about HSN? Would you be interested in actually creating a line of products for HSN? Okay, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Before it was going to be a product once in a while on QVC. Now it's a whole product line for Burnt Finger BBQ on HSN.
Yeah.
So that was the obvious choice for us. And so that's what we did. And we kicked off actually August 14th of 2018 was when our first time being on the Home Shopping Network to sell our meat.
I remember hearing about it. We're just like, oh my God, seriously?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course Megan's on that.
Yeah. And so, just kind of those things where you set those things in motion. And it was because we had a great conversation years ago about the possibility of doing that. And that was a goal and of interest. And that person remembered.
Yeah.
That person remembered and knew how to get a hold of us. Again, I mean, living practice. And being able to now a year later, I'm unable to be there on Monday. So we're trying out a guest rep to sell our product.
And can we say who the guest rep is?
Well, she's someone who's on HSN all the time.
Oh,
so
okay.
Her name's Chris. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's not like we're bringing in a movie star or anything like that, but celebrity yet, right? but that's a whole new world for us is to try to, okay, do I physically have to be there on set to sell our product, or is there enough of a storyline that maybe I get to do appearances as kind of some of the bigger shows or some of the holiday shows.
Right.
But they came to me and said, would you do ribs? And we didn't want to miss the opportunity to do it right before Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And a holiday. So we're testing out, could we have a guest rep do it for us? And what do those numbers look like? So we're testing it out and we'll see. I mean, I have full confidence in her. And she's been on selling some other products at the same time and has eaten some of the products that we've been selling, and she loves them genuinely. And so here we are now. I'm like, hey, you want to rep for us?
Nice.
So we're going to try that out. And just, I mean, again, is it me? Is it Jason? Is it Burnt Finger BBQ? Or is it the whole story and the meat?
Yeah.
And we just don't know.
Right. Well, and I'd probably be able to tell that fairly quickly when you get the guest on.
Yeah.
Again, and we talked about this in the beginning, but you turned something down because it wasn't the right fit, and then waited until the right fit came along. To me, that is the biggest lesson that I continue to hear from you. Is you have to wait. It's not that you have to wait.
Yeah.
It's that when the right opportunity presents itself, you'll know, as opposed to I need to chase the money right now.
Yeah.
And that obviously is just incredible to me. Because I think that takes a certain type of personality.
It does.
Yeah. When you know that there's money right here. That's tough to give up.
It is. It is. And I think that's where Jason and I work really, really well together because he's much more the systems guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit pie in the sky. So I show him what could be, and he tells me what has to happen today. And I'm like, okay, but we have to pay that bill.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. All right. So it's a good, we work well together.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. That reminds me, opposite gender roles. Nikki is definitely we need to get this done today, whereas I'm like, you know what we should do? Very different idea. And that's also part of the reason why we have talked about it, and it's we're very impressed with the two of you because it's they work together all day. I would kill you. She would just look at me like there's no way. Yeah, it's just the personalities are too different.
Well, and just to kind of bring that back, and you asking, is it a Megan Day? Is it a Jason Day? Is it Burnt Finger BBQ? One of the things we've talked about with HSN is there may be a point in time when, as a mom, I'm looking for certain things to put on my table for my kids and my family that aren't specifically barbecue.
Yeah.
Will that be the Megan Day line?
Right. Yeah.
Crazy to even think that.
But it can.
But it totally is possible and would make complete sense.
Yeah. Just
it really
right
would.
Into a different side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is where I cut my chops. This is where I get my accolades. But I'm a mom, and I need a good XYZ on the table, and it doesn't happen to be barbecue.
Yeah, and you built a hell of a resume, too.
Yeah, well,
it's like you can say, like, we went back, we created this, we did this, but now.
Yeah.
That's
So that's when it will be, the product lines really, if it doesn't fit us or isn't right, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's because we've had such nice success with the few things that we've done.
Right.
And we're not diluting the brand. And people aren't like, oh, she's out with something more. Although I will say, I do feel it a little bit. We're at that really, I have a mentor here in the Kansas City area, the Enterprise Center of Johnson County. And I have mentors through that. And they said the other day, one of them said, you're in the hairball stage. I said, okay, what's that? And he said, you're just rolling around picking things up. There's going to be a point in time when you're going to have to get the razor out and shave some stuff off.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to figure out what's really making money, what really makes sense, or what relationships you want to keep and so they're worth doing, and what just probably you don't need to do.
Right.
And so I feel like we've done a little bit of that. We used to do tons of competitions. I mean, we'd be out 30 weekends a year. And now we're like 6 weekends a year. We just don't do as many because we've got other things we need to do, but we want to hit the world championships. We want to hit some of the big, we have to stay relevant and try to do those. And then hit up a couple for my kids who want to compete.
Nice.
And so they have the kids queue. And so they're getting old enough now to compete in the kids queue.
I was reading about that on your your profile that you sent me over. So Hank is old enough.
Yes.
And your youngest daughter,
Meredith.
Meredith.
Yes.
Meredith. I wanted to say Megan. I was like, I know it's an M. Meredith is not, but she's also wants to.
Oh, she wants to more than her brother.
Oh my God. That's fantastic.
It really, like, she is the one that when I'm in the middle of something, like I was making broccoli cheddar soup last night and she came running in, grabbed her apron and her little play knife, and she comes over and she's like, I'll help you. And so I struggled with that a little bit at the beginning when she so wants to help. And then I discovered, and this is, sorry, Meredith, when you're hearing this when you're a little older, but I realized that if I just gave her a slice of bread or a piece of bologna or some random part of a vegetable and acted like I really needed that and it was like super important for my recipe, she would satisfy that need to help and I could keep going.
Yeah. Well, 100%. But I mean, I think that's a great thing because you're still teaching them.
Yes.
It's like, I need this.
I need 8 pieces of this tortilla.
Yeah. It's like my mom, I wasn't trying to decide to go to college. They basically told me that I was.
Yes. Yes.
But I was talking to her about it, and I was like, it's kind of amazing that you have people that have 4-year degrees in subjects that, they never end up in. I mean, I'm a good example of that. I was in finance for a few years and was like, this sucks. I'm getting into real estate. But, you have all these people that have different college degrees, and one of the things she said was it's not just the degree. It's that you can show that you took, an extra step to completing something that some people don't.
Yes.
And I thought that was an amazing thing. And that, in my mind, when she comes up and she slices the piece of bologna or the piece of bread, she completes the task.
Yes.
Like, she does it. And I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah. So, but it took a while because I'm like, all right, here's an egg, and I need that egg, but now I've got to fish 7 shells out of the. But it's like, okay, well, she doesn't need to do that. She just wants to help, but she doesn't know.
Yeah.
So so I gave her some random pieces of broccoli stem, and it was perfect, right?
Fantastic.
Last night, right? And she muscled through it and was very accomplished, and then tootled away, and she was done. And I could keep going, keep working. It took me a little while to figure that one out. My husband has it's shocking, but my husband has way more patience with the kids than I do because he gets to be fun and I'm the discipline. So I get it. I understand that as our role, but he's like, yeah, let's do this. This is fantastic. And I'm like, but I got to get this on the table, and we got bath time. We got,
But we're still playing.
We are still.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a whole that being able to like my daughter will physically park herself in front of our spice cabinet and just taste spices. It is the craziest thing.
That's amazing.
And she loves it. Oh, that's spicy. Or she'll be like, I don't like that. But then she'll be like, these two together? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. And it's really, she's building her palate. And I say all the time, I'm like, if we've got to find a program to build her palate.
Yeah.
Because she's showing all of those signs that she wants it.
Right.
And is good at it.
Right.
Like she'll tell us, she'll say, Mom needs more honey. And I'm like, you know what? It could use some honey. or whatever. It's
Wow.
really kind of savant.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Though.
Meanwhile, Hank is just like more about the task and getting it done and accomplishing something.
Where's he get that?
I don't know. Yeah.
So what are those competitions like?
Yeah.
The
It's
kids
fun.
queue.
It's intense. I mean, like so they give the kids the meat, and most typically, so usually there'll be different meat for the younger kids versus the little bit older kids and teenagers. So, for instance, at the American Royal, Hank will do hamburger, however he wants to do it. It could be a meatball. It could be an actual hamburger. It could be whatever concoction. And then the older kiddos, and I don't know the exact breakout, but I would say probably 5 to 9 and then 10 to 14 or something like that is the breakout. They'll do steak.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how that is. But like the most recent one we were just at, it was a pork chop. He was doing a pork chop. And so they give you the meat at the kids queue cooks meeting the night before.
Nice.
And then right before we're intensely getting our chicken ready and getting ready for our competition, usually around 9:30 or 10 o'clock, will be the kids queue. So we can pay attention to them. It's usually a pretty quick cook, so something within the 30 to 45 minutes, and they're done. And then they turn that in, and they judge them on taste, tenderness, appearance.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
then they
intense.
give awards
Yeah.
to the kiddos. So this last one, he took third.
Very good.
Very proud of him.
Awesome.
Yeah, he did really, really good. And he beat a lot of kids that were, he's 5.
Yeah.
And
going against 9-year-olds.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I was really, really proud of him. He did good.
That's fantastic. Well, what a good idea to bring like kids into it, because
Yes.
I mean, not everybody is a single person. Not everybody. What did you used to call dinks?
Dinks.
Yeah, dual income, no kids.
I'm impressed you remembered. Yeah, Dinks, dual income, no kids.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, it was a fantastic time.
Yeah. Nikki and I kind of looking at each other, and it's like we love our life now, but God, we should have traveled more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we
feel-
traveled a lot.
And
but
we did. Yeah, that's why we feel very satisfied. We definitely did, and we were absolutely ready to start having kids.
All right, congratulations for making it this far in the podcast. This is actually where my computer gave me a slight audio issue, so we're going to restart this in just a second. I did know upon listening back on, we do repeat a couple of the things, but I promise you, Megan actually expands on a ton more information. So sit back, relax, forgive us for repeating ourselves a couple of times, but honestly, there's some really, really cool stuff that you're about to hear. So enjoy.
Sounds great. Awesome. We're gonna make it work. So that's the biggest news that I have. I'm glad I could share that with you.
Yeah, it's always nice when your equipment breaks down that you spent so much money on. And it's just like, oh yeah, we're talking about going out of town when you're pre children, and then it's like, oh yeah, we didn't get any of the other stuff that we were supposed to get.
Well, I'll tell you what, the difference between what we always say is with a pitmaster is it's easy for somebody to be grilling or to do barbecue, but it's when things go wrong.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
phone. I realize I should take it off.
I was like, is there a helicopter? It sounded like there was a helicopter.
Oh yeah, the feedback is amazing. So
That
mic I was talking about in the very beginning.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that people like that mic is because it's a big cylindrical piece. So the actual microphone sits inside of the cover. So you have everything in one. You have the shock mount. You have everything that doesn't allow for feedback like just happened. All of it's in that one piece. And it's very nice.
That is nice.
Okay, so
no, it just say it's the ability to recover. So we're here to recover. Right?
Exactly.
We got this. So
exactly.
So having kids.
Yeah, so having kids, and let's talk about those kids.
Aww.
So Hank and Meredith, which I know now is not Megan.
No. I'm Megan. This could have been Megan Jr.
Exactly. So I know we just talked about it, obviously, but let's talk about the Kids Queue.
Yeah,
Kids
the
Queue.
dynamic of the Kids Queue.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're very fortunate that it is a family environment. Barbecue contests are very much a family environment, and when kiddos turn 5, they're able to do what they call Kids Queue, and it is the same process of taste, tenderness, and appearance that the adults go through, and they provide the meat. Typically, they'll provide the meat to the kiddos, and so Hank's 5. And so he competes, I may have the numbers wrong, but like 5 to 9 or so in one category. And then, like, for instance, at the American Royal, he'll do hamburger. And then the kiddos who are like 10 to 14 will do steaks.
Nice.
And so that's usually a protein that's permitted, given to them, sponsored. Someone has sponsored it and given it. and there's usually goodie bags involved, or sometimes they get to keep the grills.
Nice.
I mean, it's really cool. Like they really make those kids feel very, very special.
Yeah.
And so he is just now starting to get into competing himself. In the last contest, his pork chop took third.
Very nice.
So, and he loves the whole process of doing it. And I mean, we make him do it. Like he picks out what seasoning he wants. He will tell us when to pull it off of the smoker or the grill, depending on what the process is that he's choosing to do. Mm-hmm. And we just probe it to make sure that the temperature's safe.
Right.
But if he overcooks it, he overcooks it. I mean, we're not going to stop him because he's got to learn. And then our daughter, on the other hand, it's really fun because every once in a while one of the contests will just throw her some meat too so she can play.
Yeah.
She doesn't really get judged, but she wants to. And she is in there. And I have some of the most, some of the pictures and video that I will cherish for a lifetime. Just little tiny kiddos really flipping those burgers or flipping that pork chop and probing them. And it was really funny. Hank burned himself. So, yeah. And Jason was like, "Oh, you're a man." So he comes running in and he's like, "Mom, I'm a man." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, what did you do?" And he's like, "I burnt myself." I'm like, "Oh, perfect." Perfect.
Good.
So, yeah.
I want to wait a couple years on the other
stuff.
Yeah,
he's good. He's just off from a pork chop.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so they're doing great. And Meredith is really our taste tester. She's got skills that are amazing with, when something needs sweet or heat, she knows it, and it's really, really cool to watch her do that.
Yeah,
so
you were saying that she will get the seasonings out and taste them and figure out what combinations.
Yeah, she does, and she's a garlic freak. Loves garlic, and butter.
Nice
butter. And actually, it was kind of funny. One day because Hank will kind of come over and see what she's doing. Yeah, but she's on the stool up in front of the cabinet, pulling them all down. And I have to, as a mom, just let her do it and know that something might break, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I want her to feel safe and confident that she can do that. That's an approved activity. Yeah. Very approved. But he was the one who grabbed the popcorn seasoning, the butter popcorn seasoning. Mm-hmm. He'll probably kill me for telling you his secret, but he loves to put that on meat.
Yeah.
Well, it's an enhanced fake flavored butter. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it
100%.
really works. And it was like, "All right, buddy, you do it." And he's like, "I think I want that on there." And we're like, "Good for you."
Nice.
So yeah. But sometimes, it'll be like, "I want to put apple juice on it." And it's like, okay, so he's going to marinate it, It's whatever he wants to do and play with it. And so, but the kids really do enjoy it. And there'll be a point in time when maybe other activities will get in the way and we can't. But right now, that's what we do.
What I do it's, to me, the kids' competition and the fact that your daughter seems to be even more into it than the son, to me, that's just amazing because it's something that you guys are into, and it feels like so many times you hear stories about people that are bringing kids along, and the kids are a hassle, not because they're your kids, but because they're just not into it.
Not only are they not, they're bored.
Yeah.
And they're resentful, and all the other words you want to use that we are very, very blessed that at this point, they get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
But I also have to say the people around us.
Yep.
They cheer for them. They're excited. They ask them questions. They'll put on music that the kids will like. I mean, it's an engaging environment. Mm-hmm. And the kids, I say this, the kids are going to hear cuss words out there. And we just talk about the fact that if it was appropriate or it wasn't appropriate, or if it's in a song and someone sang it, it is, it's a little bit, sometimes can be a rough environment. Like, we know Friday night of the American Royals, probably not the place for kids.
Right.
But honestly, if I don't want to also not have them be part of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep that from them. And so sometimes we just kind of have to shield them, and we just know we're not going to go hang out with the guys and have a cocktail that night, because they need sleep, and we need to be there with them. So we make sacrifices too.
Absolutely.
And we sowed our wild oats for the first 7 years of competition.
Right. That's always helpful.
Before the kids came along. So we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. I can't remember I know we stopped by. I think we stopped by. We had to have, because you guys would have been out there. But the Centurions group was so new at the time that I can't remember where we went. But I thought it was either you or did Christopher Mitchell do that for a while? Okay.
She did,
Might have been his.
It was probably his.
Okay.
We were not super close by each other.
Okay, gotcha.
But he kind of had more of like anybody can stop by.
Yeah, he was a party.
He had a party.
Yeah.
Yes, and we were actually competing like in the invitational, and so we
Right.
had to kind of prepare. We would still have people come over.
Right.
And enjoy, and like we'd feed them, and at the time I think we had a liquor sponsor, so have some cocktails. So but yes,
Yeah.
Christopher Mitchell definitely.
He was the party. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because I was just like.
And then Teasdale was part of a group that had a party.
Yeah, he was always part of a group that had. I think Teasdale knows everybody in the city.
He does.
So yeah, I remember he was like, "Yeah, we're at so and so's party." I was like, "I don't know who that is." He's like, "Oh, well, you met him here." I was like, "Wasn't there."
In your world.
Yeah, exactly. But I did appreciate Christopher Mitchell that night because he we're at the American Royal. Every line is 10 miles long. And I was just like, at this point, it's not worth it to get a beer or anything like that. I'm fine. But he was like, well, did you want something? I was like, well, yeah, I'd love something. And so he brings out this like shelf in his barbecue trailer, this shelf of liquor. I was like, this is my favorite person.
You're amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. The libations.
Absolutely. Well, and especially, that was a cold night. So
it can be. It can be. Well, and it's interesting because the last couple years, the American Royal is now.
I like that we keep.
I know, like we
got
to look over.
Sure
Is it still
recording?
Is it recording?
Oh man.
So that's okay. That's what this is fun.
Yeah.
So it's changed different dates, and there's just it's now usually the second weekend of September.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot more warm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot hotter, which is fine because
Right.
it is what it is. But that first weekend in October was always like the first kind of, you could smell fall, and you'd wear your boots, and it could get really chilly, but yet during the day was warm, and it really was like beautiful Kansas City, perfect. And now it's hot.
Hot.
That's okay.
Yeah, Nikki's birthday is October 11th, and it's amazing. Normally what we used to do, especially when we lived up north, but what we would do is we'd go to the Irish Fest in Weston, because it's always one of those weekends. And we have gone there in basically parkas. We have gone there in shorts and a T-shirt and still just been sweating the whole time. I mean, her birthday always cracks me up because it's like it could have snowed 2 weeks before, or it couldn't snow for 2 months.
Yeah.
You never have any idea.
You never know.
Yeah. So we talked also about your nephew, right?
No.
Nephew. Who was it?
It's our cousin Matt.
Cousin Matt. Cousin Matt, the vegetarian at the barbecue festivals.
Yeah. One of these things is not like the other.
Uh-huh.
So Matt is genuinely, he's Jason's cousin.
Mm-hmm.
He is just the coolest dude. Great helper.
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but he anticipates what we need, and
That's
it's huge. It's just even things like set the knife down, and I go to get the knife again, and it's clean.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm telling you,
on it.
He is on it.
Yeah.
And it is so critical, and we laugh. So in our bio, we kind of talk about how he is the only guy that we trust in our barbecue trailer, because he won't dip into the supply and eat the meat, and we know. But it really is true, because people will come out and we're carving up meat, and it's super intense, and we're putting things into the clamshell box for the judges, and people will start picking meat off of the cutting board, and it's like, that was a piece we were going to give to the judges, and you just ate it. And so knowing that Matt will never do that is so good for the soul.
Yeah.
But he loves our sauce. His favorite thing is a sauce sandwich, so he'll take a bun and put our sauce on it, and he just loves it.
Yeah.
And he loves my desserts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
So, because auxiliary categories, I kind of laugh and say I was the girl who took the boxes, and I was the girl who served the drinks. But I also was doing some of the auxiliary categories. So sometimes there's a dessert, beans, potato salad, whatever, or not potato salad, but potato category.
Yeah.
My favorites when it's like Bloody Mary or margarita. Those are some fun ones as well. But yeah. So Matt helps us out with those, and every once in a while he'll even jump in and be like, can I take on one of the categories? So we love that, and passing the torch a little bit. But he is a critical part of what I would say when the big competitions are on the line and it's super intense. He's right there helping us, and he's brought a couple of his buddies along, and so we've gotten to know some of his buddies, and just comic relief. Honestly, it's
Fantastic.
Really fun.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier about, I do think that there is some type of, there's got to be at some point, they're going to be, and I'm sure it's going to be the most made fun of category at a barbecue place, or a barbecue competition, but I do think that at some point it's like there is an uncaptured market in vegetarians.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
when you're able to make that stuff taste great to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who really just enjoys meat, that's going to be a good day for everybody.
It is. And
Yeah.
and I jackfruit is something that I've been playing with. It is just extremely difficult to get your hands on a real young jackfruit
Mhm.
because by the time they're shipped over here from the tropics in which it is harvested, they're usually too sweet.
Gotcha.
And so it's difficult to do. But I know there's a couple of places I think you can get some young jackfruit in a can, and I think it does just
interesting.
as well.
Mhm.
But I just haven't ventured down that path quite too much yet. But I have done a little bit. There's a lot of folks who like fish and salmon and smoked, different things.
Yeah.
So there is, and actually, as a matter of fact, Lenexa this year, the Great Lenexa Barbecue, we took second place in the seafood category, and we did smoked salmon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was
Interesting.
really fun to
Yeah.
do, and so we nailed it. It was
That's
it was good.
awesome.
We'd never smoked salmon before.
Yeah.
But it was just like Jason saw one of the meats, and he said that looks good. I mean, I think let's try that.
Yeah.
And one of the things you'll discover about Jason is he'll go to 10 different stores
Mhm.
to source the meat. So if he sees pork butts but doesn't like how there's a certain muscle on it that he's looking for, the striations and the marbling in it, if it doesn't have the right marbling, he just won't buy anything. And so he could go to 10 stores, honestly, and before he
Wow.
finds what he's looking for. And so when a piece of meat speaks to him,
Yeah.
I was like, I guess we're doing salmon. And we did
Awesome.
it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about it in every other business and everything else, it's like you have the expert that's doing every single
Right.
category.
Right.
That's exactly what he's supposed to be doing, and that's just amazing. Somebody like me wouldn't have a freaking clue
Yeah.
what to look at, but that's great that he's able to just kind of go into a store and be like,
Yeah.
this is I need this.
Yeah.
Fantastic, and now I'm going to get everything else.
Two years ago at the Lenexa barbecue, he said, "Do you want to take the steak category?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take the steak category." And so I had picked out something, and then he comes back from the store and he's like, "Look what I found." And these were the most beautiful fillets. I mean, they were
Nice.
so marbled. And that's just not normally something that you see is that good of marbling on those
Yeah.
fillets. And so I cooked him up and took first place.
Nice.
Beefsteak champion of Kansas right
Hey.
here. And so, he teases and says, "Yeah, you cooked him good, but I really picked out good meat that day." And I was like, "You did. You nailed it. You
Yeah.
nailed it." And we didn't find as good a meat this year. And I think I don't know if I took top 10, but it was still good.
Yeah.
It was still excellent.
Yeah.
But it is critical. That meat is so critical because, again, it's that one bite
Yeah.
for that judge.
Well, and that to me, I never knew that. That
No.
to me is insane.
Well, and it's a made up criteria as well. So I'll take it even deeper. So good eating ribs fall off the bone. That's how I want to eat them at my house.
Yeah.
But they can't judge that because anybody can do that. So the judging criteria for ribs is that you bite it and the meat stays on the bone, but right where you bit pulls off with little resistance. And so
Wow.
that is how they judge the perfectly cooked, because you as a master pulled it at the exact moment that it was tender but not overdone.
Gotcha.
But again, that's not how I want to eat a rib.
No.
I want it falling off the bone.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different, it's the category criteria.
And again, like you said, newbies they have no idea.
They have no idea.
They
I
don't know,
love
they
it
don't
when
know.
a chef is like, I'm entering the American Royal and I'm going to do this. And like one chef asked me one time, he's like, "Can I sous vide the meat?" And I'm like, "No, you cannot sous vide the meat. You cannot get it to a certain temperature and then just char it off. Like, that's illegal. You know the rules."
Jeez.
That's okay. They don't know.
Well, yeah, they don't know, but it's amazing to me because so many different, like, when we think competition, I would guess, and maybe I'm wrong, but when people think competition, they automatically go to sports of some type.
Sure.
Football, baseball, soccer, basketball, whatever it might be. In those competitions, you'll have fights like all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Sure.
But with what I'm hearing from you, it's like, especially with the kids queue and with I'm sure you stay away from people that you just don't like. There's
Yeah.
always going to be
There's
that.
that guy.
There's that guy. We talked about one of the guys earlier. But to me, it's very interesting because like it does sound like what you're saying is it is kind of a family. Like
It is.
there are kids running around. There are you get together with the boys and you drink and
Yeah.
you cuss and that kind of thing. But at the same time, you're also just enjoying the fact that look how lucky we are that we get to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tailgating with a purpose.
Yeah, I like that.
Sometimes with a purse. Sometimes
Yeah.
you win money. You'll hear a lot of guys on the circuit who'll say, "When a boat pays me 10 grand, I'll get a boat." And it's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, that makes
Fair enough.
sense. Yeah, totally makes sense. It's not cheap. I mean, it's probably $800 to $1,000 every time we compete. just out of pocket. Now, we are very, very fortunate. Our sponsors help us compete and help us pay those bills. And
But not in the beginning.
No, not in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, we did not have that luxury in the beginning, and that's something you earn and work towards. And that's when, kind of the barrier to entry for a lot of people is that's why you see these huge teams of guys, because they'll all be like, I'm 200 in, I'm 200 in, I'm 200 in.
Yep.
But they don't win.
That's interesting.
They just don't win.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Yeah.
But rarely will those teams win because it's so precision and it's so about repeatability and understanding what the judges want. And so, it's, your best move you can make is become a judge.
Yeah.
And then learn it from the inside.
Yep.
Sit and judge a few contests and then come out and compete some more. Because it's really great insight and information into, again, know the rules.
Yeah.
But the guys that are pompous and just nasty, they don't last.
No.
They don't.
I can imagine.
I mean, they make their blip and they do their thing and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's there's a need for them. There's a use for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones who also that when they finally beat you, like, good for them.
Yeah.
They did it. But again, it's that satisfying. It depends on what they're in it for.
Right. Yeah. On the competition, we talked about Chopped in the beginning, but one thing that I forgot to mention is that when your dessert, the first dessert that you made, which I was like, this is awesome. That's going to be cool. I understand the concept of that. Yeah. And then, of course, dramatic effect, you pull the first one and it just collapses. I was like, oh, fudge.
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah. So, again, you want to know the story behind that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so in my episode, season 4 of the Chopped Grillmasters, I get brownie mix. And I know all of the vessels that are in the pantry are cast iron, are going to burn the crap out of a sugary batter like that. I don't know why I know that, but I know that.
Yeah.
And so I go grab cans of garbanzo beans and I dump them out because I know they have the most watery, whereas if you get something else that has that sludge, I knew I wasn't going to get a clean can. So I found the garbanzo beans and I dumped them out. And I put the brownie batter inside. And I knew I wasn't going to do just like, I was going to do just kind of a few spoonfuls of it as my dessert. It wasn't going to be like the whole thing because they're yelling at me going, get 4, you have to do 4. And I'm like, no, I've got an idea of how I want to do this with this brownie batter. So the reality of that is where you see that I turn this over and a bunch of it just oozes out is because I knew I wasn't going to have enough time. I had too much batter in the can. So I purposely dumped it to dump off as much of the runny as I could so that when I set it back on the grill, it was just finishing the batter that was cooking.
That's fantastic.
However, their editing made it look like, oh no, her brownie didn't set up.
But she only has one more
she only has one left.
Which worked out.
Which it worked out perfect. Yeah, and I did exactly what I wanted, which was scoop out a little bit of brownie and then top it with an uni whipped cream.
Yeah.
Because uni was my other,
I didn't even know that thing existed when they showed it.
So uni, sea urchin. So how do you put that with a brownie? I knew it was salty.
Yeah.
So I was like, salt, vanilla, cream, that'll be delicious.
Yeah. That's still amazing. When they showed that, Nikki and I are just looking like, what the hell? How do you do? Like, and, you and, the other person and, several times during that show and cooking shows in general, they'll show something and I will have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Like, and uni was one of them. And it was just like, oh, yeah, we're cooking with uni. Like, I would have lost immediately. Like first, I would I would lose first round no matter what. But 2, I would have looked at that and been like,
I will say luck is in part of it because I actually knew pretty much almost every ingredient that was in my basket. I at least knew a basic flavor profile for it, whether or not I knew how to cook it.
Right.
I mean, that was like actually the right temperature for veal or wild boar or whatever it was. I mean, I kind of had to guess what I thought it was going to be because I'd never really worked with it before, but I got really, really lucky. You get an ingredient or two that you're just not comfortable with, you're done. I mean, and that's the luck of the draw. You are at the mercy of that great equalizer, which is the basket and those ingredients. So you get an ingredient you're not comfortable with and it's done. And there's nothing you can do. I was very fortunate. The very first ingredient I had was a pork butt. And I know how to do a pork butt.
Yeah.
I only had 20 minutes to do the pork butt, so I knew what muscle to isolate that I knew I could cook quickly.
Yeah.
But how I knew that, I mean, I can't tell you. It's not like it's just something by being around product that I knew.
Yeah.
I got crazy lucky.
Yeah.
That was the ingredient. I mean, they could have given me a fish that I had to debone, and I would have not known.
Yeah.
You know, I now know that if it's a freshwater fish, you should cook it. If it's a saltwater fish, you could eat it raw. I mean, like, there's certain things now I know.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And, like, now I'm, like, totally paying attention to some of those things.
Yeah.
Because it's fascinating to me. But my biggest fear was getting an artichoke.
Oh.
Because artichoke is difficult.
Yeah.
With all the little spiny things and the cooking the heart and getting it completely cleaned as fast as you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that was a fear of mine that I was going to get something like that. And I didn't, so I was lucky. You know, so you're at the mercy of that dang basket.
Of course.
Jeez.
Well, that's the fun of the competition, right?
It is. And it's completely different than competition in barbecue because we've honed and perfected these recipes for decades.
Yeah.
You know, whereas that's like, you got 20 minutes, go.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Have fun with uni.
Yeah. Or vegan lobster. That was a good one.
Oh, that's right.
Vegan lobster, that was fun.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nikki and my reaction were pretty much the same on that. Like,
It was a dog toy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, literally. So I made it into a slaw. It was fantastic.
And again, just the understanding of food that it takes to just go, okay, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a panicky moment like, okay, what,
yeah.
slaw, cool.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is. But I'm comfortable outside cooking. And that was one of the things Alex, who was one of the judges on my episode, is she was like, I spend a lot of time thinking about cooking and she goes, I've never thought to cook in a can.
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we do, outdoor cooking.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, well, keep doing that. So that's where my
fantastic.
comfort is, I guess.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, like I did a pretty hard turn the last time too, so I'm just going to do a pretty hard turn this time as well to keep the momentum going, but or to not keep it going, I guess. When you think about, you know, the entire team and everything, and it's you and your kids and Matt, but Jason's kind of the glue. It always seems like he's there. And like I was telling you earlier, like my wife and I, when we talk about the two of you, we're always ridiculously impressed. We talked about going through, you know, just being able to catch up on social media and kind of see where you guys are and what you've done. But Jason, every time I meet the guy, he's always so kind. He's so nice. He's just a wonderful human. And it's great to, you know, it's amazing to me to see the two of you working together working together so well. And also remembering that you're married too, like we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. But because, I mean, I've got to imagine that, you know, you're building a pretty large-scale business at this point. I mean, it started off Bacon Explosion, and now it's product lines, HSN, all that kind of thing. But, you know, to be as, you know, you're just seem like you're a, you know, business ninja, and he just seems like he's such, you know, he knows what he's doing. I mean, to think about just like looking at a piece of meat and knowing whether or not you're going to do it, and then being able to consistently win. I mean, some of the pictures that you guys have posted, and like the one that's in your profile, it's like you're standing in front of like more ribbons and medals than anybody could ever hold on to.
Yeah.
And it's neat to see because you're such a good person. You're raising great kids. And, you know, Jason, even though we've talked about kind of a lot of the other systems and with you, you know, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he's absolutely amazing. He's a great, great person.
And he's a great daddy.
Yeah.
He's an amazing husband. He's a great son, and you know the whole thing. It's even even the way his coworkers, like the people he works with, because he still does have a full-time job.
Yeah.
So got to pay the mortgage.
Right.
Got to, you know, everything we're doing right now goes back into the business.
Yep.
And so he does have a very fantastic job. But even just like the way the people, like when I meet his coworkers and how they talk about him and how he treats. It's to the core. It's to the root. I mean, you got to earn it. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
He has the best sense of humor, but you privileged if you get to hear it.
Right.
Kind of thing, you know, because he's a listener. He listens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He sits back and he pulls it in, but he's not judging you. Mm-hmm. He's just taking those nuggets. And I mean, I think he and I I'll work a room.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll work a room.
Yes, you will.
He'll hang. He'll hang.
Yeah.
But then if I find something like, I think you two should meet each other, he's fantastic at that, you know, one-on-one. But he's not just going to walk up to somebody and say, so, would fish biting today? I mean, that's just not going to be his thing.
Yeah.
But
well, he's...
know your strengths.
Yeah. He reminds me a lot of a friend of ours from the lake. Her name's Anne. And like for the first couple of years, I don't think I heard, you know, more than 20 words from her. She was just, you know, she had a son that's, you know, I think he's like in middle school now. So, you know, he was in elementary when they first started coming down. And I always knew she was nice. She was always, happy and waving and that kind of thing. But I just never interacted with her. And then, not long. It seems like not long ago. My mom seems to tell me that she knew this a long time ago. But again, like we have 2 kids and naps, and we're kind of gone in the middle of the day. But I talked to her at one point, and even though she kind of sits back and listens like Jason does, she has a wit and a sense of humor, and she cusses like
careful.
a sailor.
Yeah, you can. Those guys,
was amazing. Yeah. So now she's just absolutely one of my favorite people to listen to, and Jason kind of reminds me of that. Just like
nailed it.
Yeah, I'm not going forward and interjecting myself into a conversation, but when I find somebody I like, we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
So.
And that is, so tonight, we're very fortunate. There's a group here in town called Made in Kansas City, and they have stores all over the metro. And we have been, they approached us to come on their shelf, which is a big deal because there's a lot of amazing barbecue sauces in Kansas City, and for them to curate and handpick just a few, and we're one of them, is very, very special. Yeah. And so they have kind of a consortium. Is that the right word? Consortium. Anyway, that word.
That one.
A cohort of makers in Kansas City, and the kind of a little gathering tonight. And so I had to get a babysitter, and this morning I'm like, Jason, do you have your tennis shoes and your shorts, because it's going to be hot out when we go do this? And he's like, hey, that's right. Where are we going? What am I doing? Yeah. What am I supposed to do? And it's like, just hang, have a cocktail. Yeah. You're fine. Yeah. And because I'm going to work the room.
Yeah, 100%.
But when someone has a very specific question or wants to collaborate, or I need him on that wall.
Exactly. Yeah. You want me on that wall.
I want him on that wall. But other than that, he's just gonna. He's gonna be there, and he's a part of it. But he knows that that's his role. Yeah. And that's what he likes.
That's good. Yeah. And again, like it goes to like it's amazing to me to see, when you have a good relationship with your spouse, when you have a good marriage, you kind of know those things about each other. Yeah. And so, with you in this business, that's even better because you kind of know where each person's strengths are, so you go do it. Even when you're just married and going out to an event, it's like, you see these, poor people that are with a spouse that's just like easy to go up, shake hands, and they're just completely disengaged from it. It's not their thing. And it's like, oh painful. Man, that would be tough.
Oh, it would be. Yeah. We talk about it all the time. It would be extremely painful. Yeah. And there's certain things he doesn't like to do, and we now are at the point now where it's like, you don't go to that. That's not necessary for you. Right. And I think you kind of have to get over the fact it's just not comfortable for that person. And so we are really fortunate. We recently have a friend that has divorced, and it's like, okay, that makes complete sense. We never saw that spouse. We never saw them doing anything. And you're like, man, I wonder, like that had to be really, really hard, but maybe they're in a better place now.
Right. Exactly.
And don't want to pass judgment or anything, but it's just, you kind of cut or keep fishing.
Exactly.
It's it.
Well, and it's unfortunate when you see that, but it's interesting to me too, because I feel like when you get married, or even when you're just in a very long-term relationship, like we have friends that have been together longer than Nikki and I have, and they've never gotten married. But when you get married, or when you have those kind of relationships that you're going to stick through, it's like no matter what, they kind of get a little irritated.
Oh, I got
it. But you're not with the person you married at all.
Oh, you grow.
You grow. You're a different person. So I can definitely see, like, back in my college days when I was partying and we were really good together and that kind of thing. But I grew into a person that no matter what it is, what I do, issues with the positive or negative issues with the family. Yep. You always are kind of churning your personality. Nikki and I have had several conversations about that. Yeah. It's just like, I love you with all my heart. You're not the person I married. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, and we always say this, I love you, but sometimes I don't like you.
Oh, yeah.
But that's when we sit down, we have those heart to heart and the eyes to eye. Like, we've got to talk this through. Yeah. What is going on? I remember right before HSN approached us, Jason was like, it's time for you to get a job. Like, you're going to have to go get a job. Oh, wow. And I'm like, okay. Yep. Like, because I can go get a job. Yeah. Building this is extremely hard. Yeah. Going and getting a job is easy. Right. And it was right.
And what a resume.
Like days. Yeah. Before. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, this opportunity is now in front of us, and maybe we got to hang tight a little bit. But you have to be, and I was open to it. And I was like, I agree. We're not kind of hitting the stride that we need to. There's not something, at least, that we see really bringing in serious revenue. Right. And so we may need to cut bait and do it on the side. Right. So it was still going to be fine. Yeah. It was still going to be fine, but maybe, and that it was it was a humbling moment, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I can do this. I can go get a job.
Yeah.
No problem. But for him to be able to say that, you know, he had to have the chutzpah too.
That's a tough conversation.
Yeah, to be like, babe, I know you thought you could do this.
Yeah. Just making sure it's still going.
It blipped.
I know.
Yeah, just so, but I also was very open to it, you know,
Yeah.
and it is hard. I mean, because again, he's a systems driven person, which is why in barbecue it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like we have a system, and whoever's available at that moment
does it. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's not like I have a flare and he has a flare. No, this is the system. You do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or I could be changing a diaper or, you know, getting Neosporin on a scraped knee, and I'm not available to do it. He does it.
Right.
Whatever, because it's, you know, as we said with our kiddos, it's extreme barbecue because they're with us.
Yeah.
That's how we do this.
Yeah.
There's certain times they're not.
Of course.
And Mama's going to have some bourbon. But.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, like, it's, first of all, you should absolutely, like, write something at some point, because what you just were, the way you described that moment and you were talking about it, it's like, what a good thing to be able to tell people. Like, yeah, you know, I don't think you should, you know, try to keep treading water and drown because of it. But at the same time, like, to be able to say, like, we had a deal that was the immediate need, so I was going to do that in a couple of days. Then this opportunity arose, things changed. But to be able to have the conversation is huge.
It is.
And then to also know, like, sometimes those moments come in the most odd, like, it would have been very weird if it was like HSN called 3 days after you started.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally.
So to me, that's a great story, just being able to, like, one, keep going. Two,
you had to sweat.
Yeah, you had to sweat. You had to be willing to do it, you know, for yourself and your family and everything else.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity arose.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great
and
story.
it was really fascinating because I was going out to there's a part of the country that we compete in called, it's Memphis in May. So we go out to Memphis. And one of my contacts was out in that part of the city. And I decided just to call on him because I was going to be out there picking up my packet for the contest, which we could have had mailed.
Right.
But I was like, I want to go. I want to go, and I want to sit in front of the organizers of that meeting, and I want to of that competition, and I just want to embrace myself, make sure I've got all the wristbands and understand the map, and because we're competing in like the world championships of pork. In a completely different city, and so I just wanted to be there, and I had the flexibility to do that, and so I just out of the blue sent an Instagram message to my contact out there and was like, hey, I'm going to be in the city, do you want to grab coffee? And he's like, we're competing too. Yeah, let's get coffee before the packet pickup.
Nice.
And then it was like, so I've been thinking about you. QVC just bought HSN, and I've been thinking about you. Would you guys be interested in doing a line of products for them? Like, I literally, we had to choose to do that contest. I had to choose to drive there and choose to send him a message via Instagram for us to have coffee, for him to like execute that question.
Jeez.
Everything had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because he might have gotten around to it at some point and been like, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
But it was like, oh yeah, you're here, and I've been thinking about you.
Right.
What?
Yeah. But putting yourself out there.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, totally random.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was, I mean, physically days after we had just had that, like, gosh.
Pick up the packet, go back to Jason. So.
Yeah, I did. I was like, so I had an interesting conversation. This really could happen. And it was, and it was like, wow. He already had vendors like ready lined up that could work with us. Like he knew the system and how their system works for dry ice shipment. I mean, like he really knew, that contact knew everything we needed.
Wow.
So it was like, I'm going to plug you in. You have to design the products.
Yeah.
But the system's there. Do you want to plug in? That's huge.
Yeah.
I didn't
100%.
have to go out and figure that out, and I didn't have to pitch to HSN and spend crazy money not knowing what they wanted. And someone was vouching for us.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So here we are, a year later.
It's amazing to me that it's only been a year with them.
I know. Yeah.
It seems like you've been on HSN forever now, and it's only been a year. I don't know if that's just having kids and thinking everything lasts forever now.
It is.
But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I just, like, you two and Nikki and I, like I said, talked about this before you came on. It was like, I just really, really respect you.
Oh.
Like it's something where, you say, well, I respect this person, I respect that person, I like this person, I like this person, but there's a different amount of drive that it takes to do the things that you guys are doing. If you go and I don't want to say anything negative about people who do this, but if you go and you punch the clock and you work, it's like you're doing exactly what you should. You're providing for your family. It takes a lot of willpower to say, one, like we were talking about earlier, to say no.
Yeah.
To, say no to QVC, and then all of a sudden HSN, you have an opportunity at HSN and it works for you now.
Yeah. Well, I think the big reason we had to say no to QVC was because it was a single product, and the reality was we had to provide so much product up front in the freezers, right? And then you hope that there's not a national disaster where everybody's now watching Fox and CNN and not watching QVC.
Right.
And you lose your opportunity. And that was it. You had your chance. Nobody was watching at that moment because of some crazy whatever happened. And now you've got a freezer full of product that I had nowhere to sell.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to, and I said, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we can't do that.
When we have another place to sell it,
yeah,
we're in.
Yeah.
But until that time, it just doesn't make sense for us.
No.
And, most people would be like, they wanted it.
Yeah.
You didn't do it.
I know. But to be brave enough to sit back and say, no, this isn't the right opportunity for us.
Yeah, I kicked myself a little bit. I really did, because I was like, maybe this is. Do we just try? Maybe we try.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I can't leverage my family and my business so much that we just can't do that.
No.
So and now we have a line. Now it's like, and I don't even know if Bacon Explosion will ever be an HSN product.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it will ever be one. But it was the differentiator that got our foot in the door, that proved a point, and made us valid. And now it's like, okay, let's do ribs, let's do chicken, let's do pulled pork. We're probably going to be coming out with some pulled pork by the pound, because that's something that they want. That's something that consumer is asking for. We started out with a whole 4.5 pound pork butt, and it did well. Yeah. People liked it, but it's a commitment. Yeah. Because you got to set it out 2 days in advance, and then you got to put it in a crock pot and let it slowly reheat, because it's a large piece of meat, and it was just a big commitment. Whereas a 1 pound pack of pulled pork, they can just like nuke it.
Yeah, nuke it, throw it in the saucepan, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was those kinds of things, and taking this year to really figure out what does we tease. They kind of have a marketing, their demographic person.
Gotcha.
And her name is Nicole. And so we were talking about this just the other day, and Jason was like, would Nicole like that? And I'm like, freaking Nicole. Probably not. Next, and it's like, does Nicole want a turkey for or does she want a ham? What does Nicole want?
Oh my gosh.
But it's important because, we put a product out there that did okay.
Right.
But obviously, Nicole wants it by the pound.
Right.
So we got to find by the pound. We got to make it work.
And again, another opportunity.
And
another product to have on the shelf.
But the cool thing is we get to do that.
Yeah.
That's the part that sometimes I kind of even shake my head like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, 10 years of really hard work.
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
Yeah. Really hard work.
Really hard work.
Yeah. Well, like what did you say in the beginning of it? It's like overnight success.
Yeah, 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It is a 10-year overnight success. Legit. Like, I love it when people discover us and they're like, I was looking at you guys have been doing this a long time, and it's like, like legitimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know we have a documentary on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, we talked about that a
well,
bit.
No, it's
a different one.
Different one.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So Jason was a part of KCPT. Did the public television in Kansas City did a documentary on burnt ends.
Oh,
interesting. He was a part of the burnt ends documentary that was Emmy nominated. And guess what the crazy thing there is? You know who was part of that project?
Nope.
Kate Bender's husband.
Seriously?
Who was a centurion with a
Awesome.
So Jonathan Bender, her husband, knew Jason from the Bacon Explosion days because he was a beat writer on food.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so he brought him in to be an expert during that documentary. But then a few years ago, Meredith was maybe a month and a half old.
Yeah.
a film crew came out and filmed Jason and I at the American Royal, and another team, and then they did 2 back-to-back years at the American Royal. And that documentary is on Amazon Prime, and you can just watch it anytime. It's called Smoke and Ribbons.
That's amazing.
And what's really funny is I'm hardly in it, and I'm like, because I'm breastfeeding my daughter like majority of the time, right? You know, because at that exact time, that was the season of our life. He had to be way more into the cooking than I did, but they wanted a family team, and so we could nothing more for fresh family than a month-old kid.
Yeah, no
you
kidding.
know, and they started filming, and
and
so
what, a 2 or 3-year-old at that point?
Yeah, so a 2-year-old, and so I mean, that was it, and it's funny to kind of look back at that documentary and see, like, we have a completely different smoker. We use a completely different brand of brisket now. I mean, you know, just really even how you evolve and there's different sponsors that we had then that we don't have now, and we have different ones. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool. But we'll forever have that. I mean, and I think, it gets a lot of views. It's really fascinating. The producer who did that every now and then will give us kind of an update on it. And it's like, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And what's really, really crazy is, you talk about Jason being so humble, and like I remember one time we kept seeing these people come by and they were taking pictures, and we thought it was because our trailer is a toy hauler, so the back end of it comes down and our toys happen to be smokers. So we haul our toys in that, and we thought people were taking pictures because the toy hauler back was down and you could see right into our kitchen in the bed.
Nice.
And like we thought people were like taking a picture of the rig.
Right.
And then finally someone walks up and is like, Are you the couple from Smoke and Ribbons, the documentary? No clue. We were like, oh yeah, we are. Hadn't even put 2 and 2 together that all of these people were coming by and taking pictures like of us in the wild.
That's amazing. That's gotta be a weird feeling.
It was really weird. And like last year at this, right before the American Royal, I got a message from Instagram from a guy out of New Zealand who was coming over to do and had seen the documentary. Wow. And so was asking me questions about, do we have to turn burnt ends in? Do we just do flat? Like he was asking American style questions. Yeah. And because he had found me on that documentary.
That's amazing.
And so I befriended them and told them everything they needed to know because I wanted them to come over and be very successful with their cook, you know.
Yeah.
And now they're great. You know, we consider them friends. We've got them all over. But,
that's amazing.
You know, and they gave me a really awesome bottle of Jack Daniels with our logo emblazed on it. Nice. So it's pretty cool, but very sweet. But yeah, it's like you think about those things and you're like, oh my gosh, it's just something we did and it was a fun project and never thought twice about it.
No. Well, the idea that somebody would come, like, one, that would just randomly take a picture of you that wasn't being weird, but 2, that somebody would actually come up to you and ask, like, never been famous. Like, it's got to be a strange feeling to be like, oh, man, people know me before they know me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It really is. It really is. And it was such an intimate, into what we were doing. I think they did feel like they knew who we were.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
and
awesome.
they knew Hank and Meredith and, which is fine. It is really, really cool. And I think, just there's not a lot of that content out there.
No.
And so it's starting to. And I'm excited to see where that goes. Right. I would have killed for that kind of insider content when we started all of this.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know. We didn't know that's how you slice something or box something. And now there's content everywhere and you can see it. Yeah. So. Yeah, YouTube's the second largest search provider in the entire world. I believe it.
And it's like, no kidding. I'm on it all the time.
Fix my garbage disposal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, how do I do it?
Yeah,
Somebody
YouTube.
who's an expert videotaped it.
Yep.
And all I have to do is watch a 5-second ad.
Yeah. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
in. I need to be that ad. That's where probably I need to go next.
Well, I like the idea that some people, I've been researching YouTube a lot because my goal is to eventually have this filmed once I can actually create a backdrop in here and that kind of thing, and it doesn't look like just an unfinished basement.
Although that could be your shtick.
Hey, there you go. I like it. He is a realtor. Think about the terrible house. But no, I looked at it, and it was just amazing because there are people that have, and it's not just people that have been on forever, but it's people that they have a niche. They video themselves. They, do a little editing, and then they throw it on there.
Yep.
And as long as you have enough content, and you're searchable, people will find you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that people can do that now, and that's just their job.
Yeah. It's searchable is probably one of the biggest tips that I can leave to somebody just in general for business. when I was fortunate to get the call from the Today Show, the food producer called and said, would you come on and for the kickoff of the NFL and grill up something that's Kansas City?
Yeah.
And so I said, you got it. I'll be there. And when we were standing around just kind of waiting for the segment to air or to start, I asked her, I said, how did you find me? Mm-hmm. And she goes, well, I Googled Kansas City Pitmasters, and you had just been on Chopped. And so there was a Kansas City Star article about you.
Oh, my gosh.
And she said, so I found you, and I thought, that's perfect. She doesn't look like all the other guys.
Yeah.
And so she goes, but you know what it really was? And I said, nope. She goes, your phone number was on your website. I could call you.
Yep.
And I said, what? She goes, yeah. She goes, I had a direct email and a direct phone number. I didn't have to fill out a comment form and wonder if somebody got it. I don't have time.
Yeah.
She goes, I could call you directly and say, do you want to do this?
Yep.
Because if I don't get a hold of you, she goes, honestly, I won't leave a message.
That's amazing.
So it was going to be the first person that I got a hold of that said yes.
Wow.
And it's like, oh. And now she's great. Like, like she's like, I was on call if the Chiefs had gone on to the Super Bowl. I was on call to be on again. And
one hand across the line.
Don't even. I know. The second he did that, I was like, that's it. That's my trip to New York.
Were you at the game or did you watch it on TV?
On TV.
My brother somehow scored these amazing seats. So I've got a picture on my Instagram where you can, like, it's a picture of Tom Brady's head and it looks this big because you have to, like, pinch it, but we're in the back. You could never tell because we got these because it was so cold.
Oh, yeah.
I had these, like, Mortal Kombat masks. So, like, all you could see was my eyes, and I looked like a big fat guy because I had on just layer after layer after layer. But yeah, it was that play in the game.
Yep.
Of course, everything erupts. They didn't show it again. They didn't show the stadium that D Ford was over. They didn't show the replay.
I'm sure they didn't.
Because I'm sure they were just like, let's get them riled up.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I was so cold that I basically was just like, I'm not leaving until it's done. I'm not going until it's over. But I had to pee so bad.
I love it.
Like 3.5 hours into it, I'm just like watching. That play happens. I shake my head. They score a touchdown, and then I left when the coin toss went. Yeah, because as soon as I saw that New England got it, I was like, that's over. I had people like, why are you going now? That's ridiculous. I was like,
it's over.
You don't want to say that to people that are excited.
Brady.
Yeah. Well, our defense last year didn't stop anybody.
No,
like, we couldn't stop Lamar Jackson.
No.
So, like, Brady, of course not. But, yeah, it was like, I left. I had nobody in there, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So there was 0 people there. I did my thing. I came back out just in time to hear boo, and then everybody walk out mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was. It's funny you say that because when that happened, I looked at Jason and I go, well, guess I'm not going to New York. And he's like, what? They still? And I'm like, nope.
No.
Like I was like, because it's going to end up. There's going to be a coin flip, and it's at the mercy of the coin flip, and that's exactly what happened. So, but I was on call. I was ready to go. I had babysitters lined up. Everything was ready to go. So, but the moral of that story is, find a bowl.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to put your number out there.
That's what she said. She goes, what are people afraid of? Someone's going to call them?
Yeah.
It's like business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my industry, my brother and I joke about this all the time. And this was the same thing when I was a financial advisor. But the number of people that fail out of the industry because they're afraid to call somebody is amazing. Yeah. Especially when somebody asks you for information. Like, we'll get leads from Zillow. You have over to the side, like, call these 4 agents. And you pick one and call or email. And a lot of times I don't answer my phone because either one, I'm on the phone, or 2, like, I probably get 40 spam calls a day.
Yeah.
And I recognize the numbers. I'm just like, nope, not you. If I saw one from New York, I'd be like, curious, because I never get anything from, like, the popular areas. It's always whatever cheap number they can buy. But yeah, so we talk about it all the time, though. It's like, when you get a lead, don't email them. Call them. Call them again. Call them a third time. Like, don't call them every 5 minutes and be annoying, but definitely, like, follow up, because the moment that you get them on the phone, it's 10 times more likely that you're going to get them as a lead than as a prospect than
Well, we're so
email.
busy that if you get me on the phone, chances are I'm either going – a decision's going to be made. The decision may be that we're going to talk again later.
Yeah.
But you will have an answer. If it's a no, it's a no.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the fun things to get to your business point where I enjoy the no. Because then I know I've broken up with them and I can move on.
Yeah.
Like that, or the idea. I've broken up with the idea and I can move on.
Yeah, it just shuts it down.
Yep.
You go to the
you
next
go to the next one.
Yeah. 100%.
That's a fun place to finally be in.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a big – I remember as an advisor they talked about that constantly. Yeah. It was just like when –
you get to break up.
Yeah, when you're able to say no, that's a good day.
Yeah, it is a good day. And I mean, I still catch myself like, oh, I should do that, and it's like, no, don't. The couple of things that I said I would like to be a keynote speaker. I'd like to do some podcasts this year, and then
you'd be great as a keynote.
So I'm going to do one.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Nice.
So the Lee Summit, and again, it came to me like crazy. Listen to this crazy story.
Yeah,
this is going on really long. I apologize to anybody out there who thought this was about to end.
My longest was 3 hours.
Oh, okay, well, we're rocking and rolling. I got to get out of here before then. I got to pick my kid up from kindergarten.
All good.
But no, okay, so I get a message from the Lee Summit Chamber. It's a kind of a champions breakfast for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they've asked me if I would consider being the keynote. And then they go through this list of, here's the last 4 keynote speakers. One's Case Dorman with Jack Stack Barbecue. One is Matt Chateau from Chateau Milk. And the third one was Josh Rowland from Lead Bank. And then there's another guy, Shackelford, who was part of the Digital Sandbox. And I don't know him and don't have a relationship with him. But the 3 previous, Case Dorman from Jack Stack has been a huge mentor of ours. When we first started needing to get a shipped product from the Bacon Explosion, he was a wealth of knowledge.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
That's good to hear.
No reason for him to have done that.
Yeah.
Wealth of knowledge. Matt Chateau was our first mentor.
Nice.
Through the Enterprise Center of Johnson County, and then ultimately asked us to have our product in the Chateau home delivery system, so our products are in there. And Josh Rowland who's Lead Bank. He started a program called the Eastern Jackson County Challenge, and this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, where he handpicked 5 companies. You had to apply. Handpicked 5 companies to come in, and he was going to mentor, and you were going to get resources for 6 months. And at the end of that 6 months, you had to pitch in front of a panel that he put together of various industry experts for a chance to win $50,000 grant. Yeah. We won $40,000 of the $50,000 from that grant program that Josh put together.
I was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those 3 I think are the reason we are where we are.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't have, if you'd have asked me, give me 3 people that have been critical.
Yeah.
Those 3, and now they're asking me to be a keynote after those 3.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like you can't make that up.
No, and I've always thought that if you can do a keynote speech, you can pretty much speak anywhere. Like it doesn't matter if it's in front of, a small group of people or if it's in front of thousands. Like if you have the ability to get up in front of people, the number all of a sudden doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like that was one of my favorite things about being in theater was I could just get up in front of people and talk. And it's nice. And keynotes are fun.
I'm excited. It's my first one. I've done.
Awesome.
I was in Toastmasters and improv and all that. Kind of just to hone your skills. I was a 4-H'er.
Hey.
So got to give those presentation talks. So I feel very comfortable with that. But keynote's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the fact that those 3 were part of that, I'm like, man, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm right where I need to be. There's no question.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
So it's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's just perfect.
Thank you. And I remember you guys were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple we sent out please come see us at this presentation. And it was amazing. We still haven't used all that money.
Oh, seriously?
We still have a little bit, but we felt very confident confident's not the right word. We felt very passionate that what we pitched that we would use the money on, we wanted to be honest and stewards of that money.
Right.
And some things that we thought were going to happen didn't end up happening. And so we didn't feel like we should use that money until then. And so it's still sitting in an account and
Wow.
But now some of the things that we're doing, we were trying to do back then.
Yeah.
So now if I need to dip in a little bit, I feel like I've got that money to dip
because
into.
That's what it was there for. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wonderful to hear too. Like you want to be the kind of person that's like, I didn't just lie to get into this. It's like, and that it's, you're not lying. You're just saying like, here's what we're planning on using it for.
If we'd have pivoted completely out of that, then but I'll send every once in a while, I'll send those judges a little, hey, here's what we're up to today.
Yeah, that's great.
Because I just believe, again, it's the long play.
Yeah.
They had to choose to give us that funding over all of those other awesome companies.
Yeah.
And I want them to know what they invested in.
Yeah.
So.
And keep yourself top of mind.
Sure.
All the time.
Sure.
Yeah, that was a weird experience. Not because of with you guys. It was weird because we come in, we know you from Centurions and all the other stuff, and all of a sudden I look over and the girl that I played opposite of in a lot of my shows in high school, her parents were right in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, they live 10 seconds from my parents. You know, our families never really like talked to each other. It was just me and Emily that did. But it was just weird to kind of be like, okay, whoa, two worlds are kind of colliding right now. So it was like, hi, Harris's, how are you doing? Hi, Megan, that we know for a couple of years. Like, this is a weird dynamic to see. But we ended up talking to him and, just kind of catching up. So
was it Bradley Harris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'll tell you the story about them. I invited them because the wife, Phyllis, she is an amazing illustrator.
Yes, she is.
And she had made the decision when I worked at Children's Mercy to give a portion of her proceeds when she would sell an illustration to come back to Children's Mercy Hospital.
Oh, very nice.
And so because I was over that corporate and community relations, anything that wasn't just a check, this was, she had to sell something and then she'd give us a donation. We worked through that that project and had gotten to know them and was the one who said, we're doing this, you should come see this. And they came as well to hear that pitch. And it was because of my relationship with them through Children's Mercy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and her being, and I I knew they loved entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Small world.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think we played opposite each other at least twice.
Well, Emily's got a great voice.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go listen to Emily and Bradley sing like at Caribou Coffee.
Yep.
And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see the updates all the time, but never out there.
Yeah. Every once in a while, it's hard to go, but every once in a while, they'll be at the Peculiar Winery and some different things around town. So it's fun. But what a small world.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, this podcast has opened that idea in my mind like crazy because the amount of people that I've reached out to and seen and found out that we had a connection to each other is remarkable. Yeah. Like, well, who do you know? How do you know them?
Yeah.
So I did this.
Phyllis could be a good podcast.
She could be.
Yeah, because she illustrated Schwarzenegger, the daughter.
Yeah.
Her book, her children's book, and she just signed a deal to, I think, write and illustrate her own book.
Oh,
so
wow.
she's now diving into her own children's book. So crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
but,
yeah.
Talk about a person who, they're probably I don't want to say how old they are, but 50s, 60s, probably late 50s, probably mid 50s, somewhere in there, and has a whole new career.
Oh, yeah.
Diving in, and sorry, Phyllis, if I aged you. I don't. Maybe you're 45, but I don't think you're just a little older than me. So.
Well, she would have given birth to Emily at
very young,
13.
Yeah,
so
probably not it. But and Bradley has he was a big time executive for a big shipping company, and he's got
He cracks me up. He is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Oh, fun.
We'd stop because, like I said, my parents moved, and then all of a sudden now the way that I go by their house anytime I go to my parents over here. And so I'll drive by, but there have been a couple of times where he'll be like out waxing a car or doing something.
Mutual admiration society.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
great. That's cool.
Awesome. Well, when do you have to head out?
Probably here pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
Yeah,
right.
I gotta.
My motion sensor didn't see me move for a while.
It's been so long we've been sitting here. The lights went out on us. And scene.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I've got probably wrap it up because I've got to go pick up that kid.
Absolutely.
Here soon,
so how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So burntfingerbarbecue.com is our website. And then social media, Burnt Finger BBQ is kind of our brand. Mm-hmm. And then I personally, Burnt Finger Megan.
Yep.
MEGAN. Is where I tend to post some more things about me and the kids and things that we're doing kind of more behind the scenes and things, whereas I think our social media kind of is more on brand.
Gotcha.
But, or is it like they're both on brand?
Right.
It's just a little different view.
Exactly. Well, like you were talking about earlier, you never know what the next opportunity is going to be. So
don't know.
Brand however you can.
Exactly. I just think be authentic to what we're doing. And it is really fascinating how many people say, I saw this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did put that out on social media, so you did see that. And yeah, people pay attention. But that's the best way to get a hold of us. And some exciting things I'm under non-disclosure I can't talk about. So if you want to kind of watch for what's happening next. And we have a huge announcement, a big retailer that's going to pick us up. Awesome. Unfortunately, that means probably probably one of our friends is coming off of the shelf.
Gotcha.
So out of respect, I probably won't talk about that yet until it's kind of made the announcement. But that's the one thing about this world is we all know each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all there helping each other out. So getting a brand on a shelf is easy. It's getting off.
Yeah.
Someone to buy you.
Absolutely.
Is the hard part.
Cool. Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming on.
Thanks
Then
so
thank
much
you
for having me.
staying over and getting that technical issue
We
figured
got
out.
it.
Thanks.
Bye. Oh, we got lights. Yeah, motion.